Chapter 3480. With this retreat, Zi-Chin had retreated far enough, and his soul had also recovered a little. Returning to the mountain peak, Zi-Chin began to recover his soul. In less than an hour, his soul had completely recovered. And this time, Zi-Chin clearly felt that his soul had improved greatly. He started drawing talismans again. The talisman paper glowed, and a light wheel surged. It was still a one-star talisman. At the same time, this also meant that Zi-Chin was still a one-star sacred talisman master. After carving all the remaining blank talisman papers, Zi-Chin began to condense the sacred talisman array. With the successful experience, his soul had strengthened a lot, and the next step was naturally much easier. The 6 directions defense and attack talisman arrays were successfully condensed in one go. However, his soul was too exhausted, and he couldn't fight for a long time. After hesitating for a while, Zi-Chin decided to stay where he was and cultivate at full speed to improve his soul power. Because he had retreated far enough, Lei Jing, Hongye, and the others couldn't find this place. It was also because of this that they managed to survive. Zi-Chin came here purely to improve, so he stayed where he was for more than half a month. In this half a month, his soul had improved significantly. When he controlled the 6 directions talisman array again, it was no longer as strenuous, and he could use it for a long time. If others knew about this, they would be extremely shocked. Because many 2-star sacred talisman masters couldn't do what Zi-Chin did. Next, Zi-Chin began to go deeper at full speed. Although he was still a 1-star sacred talisman master, he wasn't afraid even if he encountered a 2-star sacred talisman master. However, what puzzled him was that according to his soul strength, he should have reached 2-star long ago. Why hadn't he broken through yet? The talisman papers in front of him rolled, and a talisman beast appeared. At this area, all the talisman beasts that appeared were 2-star, and the one in front of him was no exception. Zi-Chin looked ahead, and the talisman papers around him rolled. Roar! The 2-star talisman beast roared, and its body lit up. In the sky, space began to distort, and countless sharp blades fell from the sky, heading straight for Zi-Chin. Buzz! A sacred talisman flew out of Zi-Chin's body, forming a barrier in front of him. 6 directions defensive formation. Countless sharp blades fell from the sky and struck the defensive light barrier, creating ripples. Only the 1-star Zi-Chin could block the attack of a 2-star talisman beast by using this move. Similarly, if he wanted to kill the other party, he would need the 6 directions offensive glyph array. It was said that this was the most basic talisman array for sacred talisman masters. As long as one's soul was strong enough, they could use it. According to the grades of the sacred talisman array, Sankai was Earth grade low grade, while Lyoha was Earth grade mid grade. In the sky, the power of the 6 holy lightning talismans merged into one. A thick bolt of lightning descended from the sky and struck the 2-star talisman beast. With a blood-curdling scream, the talisman beast died. Zi-Chin obtained a new 2-star holy talisman paper and a beast soul crystal. This time, he did not obtain the holy talisman art. After cleaning up the loot, Zi-Chin continued forward. Because of the previous pause, Zi-Chin's spiritual strength had increased by quite a bit. Controlling the 6 directions formation was a piece of cake for him. In the following battles, Zi-Chin encountered all 2-star talisman beasts. If he did not form the sacred talisman array, he could not do anything to them. Along the way, Zi-Chin used up a lot of sacred talismans, but he also obtained a lot of 2-star holy talisman papers. Zi-Chin had not used these sacred talisman papers yet. A few days later, Zi-Chin saw ripples of battle. There should be other people in this area. One day, when Zi-Chin was investigating a battlefield, he suddenly heard the sound of something breaking through the air. He looked up and found that he was surrounded. Zi-Chin, we meet again! A familiar and cold voice sounded. It was Lei Jing Hongye. Looking at him, Zi-Chin frowned and said, "You're really like a ghost that won't go away. I see you everywhere. Humph! You're about to die, and you're still so arrogant?" Lei Jing Hongye sneered and said mockingly, "You're still a 1-star cultivator, right?" Zi-Chin looked around. There were a total of 8 people here, and from the soul fluctuations around them, he could tell that all of them had already advanced to 2 stars. He frowned slightly. There seemed to be some trouble. Hand over the soul amassing crystal and I'll spare your life, Lei Xinghongye said coldly. I'll let you live here until the end of this trial. You talk too much. If you want to fight, then fight. If not, scram, Zichen said impatiently. No, even if we don't fight, you can forget about leaving. This time, I won't let you go no matter what. I'll send you away first. You're talking big. A sacred thunder talisman appeared in front of Lei Xinghongye. It was a 2nd-grade talisman. At the same time, the other 7 people also took out 2nd-grade talismans. Go to hell! Remember, this is not over. Even if we're outside, I'll still find a chance to kill you. 8 2nd-grade sacred thunder talismans flew towards Zichen. They shattered midway, forming 8 terrifying thunderbolts that went straight for Zichen. A hexad talisman array appeared in front of Zichen. It was called a talisman array because it could display unparalleled power. The hexagonal symbol array blocked the 8 consecutive attacks. Amidst the rolling thunder, everyone's faces were filled with astonishment as they looked at Zichen, who was still standing at the same spot. It's the hexad talisman array. How is this possible? You're only a 1-star cultivator. How can you master the hexad talisman array? Lei Xinghongye exclaimed. The confidence on his face had long disappeared. This didn't make sense. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost his composure. Zichen smiled coldly. 6 sacred thunder talismans flew out and formed a talisman array in the sky. Looks like I need to make you understand something. Zichen took a step forward. The defensive talisman array appeared in front of him again. I've been fighting those above my level all this time. The restriction of level is almost useless against me. Now, even if I can only display the power of a single profession like Sacred Talisman Master, I still have to tell you that level is useless against me. The sacred thunder fell from the sky. Even if it was only a 1st-grade talisman, its power was enough to kill a 2nd-grade talisman master. Thunder rumbled continuously. Amidst the rolling dust, the screams of the 2-star sacred talisman masters could be heard. The battle happened quickly and ended even faster. When the energy waves disappeared, the 8 2-star sacred talisman masters had already left the talisman forest. Zichen, I won't let you go. Lei Xinghongye's unwilling voice echoed in the sky. Zichen's face was a little pale. Killing 8 2-star sacred talisman masters in one go and defending against their attacks had consumed a lot of his soul power. Chapter 3481. This time, the feeling of his soul growing was very clear. This made Zichen feel excited. He took out the remaining 1st-grade sacred talisman paper and started to draw the sacred thunder talisman. In this messy battlefield, he appeared to be completely focused. When the tip of the brush touched the sacred talisman paper, a light was imprinted on it. The first sacred thunder talisman was successfully drawn. A light pattern surged out, illuminating the surroundings. It was still a 1st-grade talisman, but it was obviously better than before. Then, the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th talismans were drawn. Although they were all 1st-grade talismans, Zichen's confidence grew. He took a deep breath and used his soul power to control his movements. Buzz! When the 6th sacred talisman was drawn, a ripple surged out and a strong aura surged. 2 light patterns appeared on the sacred talisman. 2-star sacred thunder talisman. At this moment, Zichen's sacred talisman master level had advanced. Zichen's face revealed a joyful expression. He did not expect to be able to reach 2 stars so quickly. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from the sky. Your soul has advanced. Do you want to take the test? Test? Zichen was stunned and looked up at the sky. There was no one. He asked curiously. What test? Do you want to take the test? The cold voice sounded again like a machine. Zichen didn't know what was going on, but it was obviously not a bad thing. Almost all tests had rewards for success. He immediately nodded and said loudly, Take the test. Swoosh! A light descended from the sky and landed on Zichen, enveloping his body. Zichen found that he had arrived at a strange space. There was a table in front of him. There was a pen, ink, and paper on the table that emitted light. Zichen noticed that the 3 items were all second grade. He walked forward and saw a total of 10 blank second-grade sacred talisman papers on the table. First test. 10 second-grade sacred talismans. There were only a total of 10 Saint Talisman papers, and the requirement to succeed in refining all 10 was clearly a 100% success rate. In Zichen's opinion, this test was a little strange. For some new Saint Talisman masters, the difficulty was not low. However, this was not difficult for him, not to mention that he was using the best things. However, for safety's sake, Zichen drew 10 Holy Thunder Talismans in total. From start to finish, he didn't fail even once. They were all successful. Schwa! The object in front of him disappeared along with the second-grade Holy Talisman brush in Zichen's hand. The space in front of him distorted, and a space portal opened. Zichen walked in. There was another space in front of him. 3 second-grade Holy Thunder Talismans were floating in the air. The second test, tripartite Holy Thunder Formation. The indifferent voice sounded again. Zichen immediately released his soul power to control the 3 Holy Lightning Talismans. Although it was his first time controlling a second-grade Holy Lightning Talisman, it was a piece of cake for him because of his powerful soul power. The 3 Holy Lightning Talismans rotated slowly in the air, and their power gradually merged before shattering. A terrifying power gathered and blasted into the void. It was also a tripartite talisman array, but the one activated by the second-grade Holy Thunder Talisman was much more powerful. As the tripartite talisman array disappeared, a second space appeared in front of Zichen. After entering, there were 6 Holy Thunder Talismans that Zichen had to control. This was the Hexad Talisman Array. It was not difficult for Zichen. After the talisman array was activated, another space appeared in front of him. After that, Zichen encountered 9 Holy Thunder Talismans. This Holy Talisman Array was called the 9 Extremes, which also meant the limit. 9 second-star Holy Thunder Talismans floated in front of Zichen. Zichen took a deep breath. This was something he had never tried before, and he had no confidence at all. His surging soul power instantly enveloped the 9 Holy Thunder Talismans. In the next moment, the Holy Thunder Talismans began to vibrate and rotate slowly. Zichen's soul power began to deplete rapidly. He gritted his teeth and persevered. His soul power surged wildly. At the same time, the soul-gathering crystal in his spiritual sea was rapidly absorbing soul power. The ghost-devouring soul technique was also operating at high speed. However, controlling 9 second-star Holy Thunder Talismans required too much soul power. Chi! One of the Holy Thunder Talismans began to vibrate and shatter. The power of the Holy Thunder dissipated. Chi! 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 The remaining Holy Thunder Talismans shattered one after another. He had failed. A look of regret appeared on Zichen's face. As expected. The test is over. The cold voice sounded again. Then the sky began to distort. Light descended from the sky. It was a Holy Talisman brush with 2 light patterns. It was a second-grade Holy Talisman. Zichen reached out and grabbed the second-grade Holy Talisman brush. This should be the reward. Then, another second-grade Holy Talisman fell and was caught by Zichen. Now that he had the Holy Talisman brush and the second-grade Holy Talisman paper, Zichen would have no difficulty in drawing the second-grade Holy Talisman. Just when Zichen thought that these were the only 2 rewards, a golden light flashed in the sky. Then, a golden round stone fell. Zichen caught it instinctively. The golden round stone looked like the soul stone obtained from killing a talisman beast. However, the soul power it contained was very rich and pure. Zichen looked it up and down before putting it away. He did not know how to use it for the time being. After obtaining these 3 items, Zichen disappeared from this space. During the previous test, his soul power had been completely depleted. But now, It was at its peak. He was slightly stunned. Fortunately, the second-grade Holy Talisman brush and Holy Talisman brush were still there. Only then did Zichen know that what had happened earlier was real and not an illusion. Next, he began to draw the 2-star Sacred Thunder Talisman so that he could use it in the next battle. After preparing a number of 2-star Sacred Thunder Talismans, Zichen tried to draw another 2-star Sacred Thunder Talisman. Sacred Thunder Spirit. This was the first time Zichen tried to draw it after he had advanced to the next level. It was also a 2-star Sacred Thunder Talisman, but the Sacred Thunder Spirit was much more difficult than the Sacred Thunder Talisman. With the current strength of Zichen's soul power, he failed more than 20 times before he succeeded. This was simply unbelievable to Zichen. One had to know that he had never wasted so many Holy Talisman papers when he had entered the sect. Fortunately, after he succeeded, his success rate increased significantly. There were only 1 or 2 failures, but it didn't affect him much. As he continued to go deeper and kill talisman beasts, Zichen obtained more and more soul stones. These soul stones would be of great use in the future. Fighting, drawing talismans, and moving forward. Everything was carried out efficiently and steadily like a machine. Zichen's soul power grew stronger in the process. Chapter 3482. A 2-star talisman beast blocked his path. Zichen immediately threw out a Holy Thunder Talisman. The Holy Thunder Talisman exploded, and the power of lightning struck the 2-star talisman beast. With a loud boom, a deep pit full of cracks appeared on the ground. The talisman beast rolled away, kicking up a cloud of dust. Dozens of feet away, the 2-star talisman beast flipped over and stood up, unharmed. Seeing this, Zichen's expression remained unchanged. A few more Holy Thunder Talismans flew out of his hand, and the terrifying power of lightning struck the talisman beast. Countless runes flickered on the 2-star talisman beast's body, and a powerful attack appeared. Boom! 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 The energy continued to rumble, and terrifying shockwaves wreaked havoc in the surroundings. Dust billowed, and sand and pebbles flew everywhere. Zichen stood in the distance, and watched this scene indifferently. In the flying dust, the 2-star talisman beast suddenly leaped out and charged at Zichen. It extended its sharp claws, and runes flickered on its claws. In front of Zichen, a 2-star Holy Defense Talisman shattered. With a bang, the defense formed by the Holy Defense Talisman shattered, and Zichen was sent flying backward. In the face of this 2-star talisman beast, the 2-star Holy Thunder Talisman and Holy Defense Talisman were useless. Zichen, who was retreating, looked at the 2-star talisman beast that continued to charge forward. 3 more Holy Talismans flew out in front of him, and this time, they formed a tripartite talisman array. Boom! Terrifying lightning struck the 2-star talisman beast, and it let out a scream. It fell to the ground, and blood spurted out. It was only injured, but not dead. Then, the tripartite talisman array appeared again and killed the 2-star talisman beast. Looking at the flying pieces of Holy Talisman paper, Zichen's expression turned solemn. Just as I thought! He had been a 2-star talisman master for half a month. In the beginning, the power of the 2-star Holy Thunder Talisman was still impressive. However, Zichen gradually realized that as he went deeper, the power of the 2-star Holy Thunder Talisman obviously weakened. For example, if Zichen did not use the tripartite talisman array, he would need at least 20 2-star Holy Thunder Talismans to kill this 2-star talisman beast. But killing a 2-star talisman beast would at most obtain around 10 blank talisman papers. It seemed that the talisman beasts here were already immune to the Holy Thunder Talisman. In order to test his guess, he had already tried twice, but the result was the same. Without using a talisman formation, the difficulty of killing these 2-star talisman beasts was not small. Zichen walked forward to pick up the Holy Talisman. He had another idea that he wanted to verify. Right at this moment, he sensed danger approaching. His hair immediately stood on end as he sensed an intense threat. Almost like a conditioned reflex, a Holy Defense Talisman shattered in front of him. 1. The water-like light blocked in front of him, forming a defense. As soon as the defense appeared, a pitch-black claw appeared in front of Zichen's chest. Under the pressure, the defensive light shield caved in toward his chest. Under the intense pressure, it instantly shattered. Then, its sharp claws moved forward and slapped Zichen on the chest. Zichen's robe was torn and blood splattered. He was sent flying backward. As he flew backward, Zichen saw a black panther appear in front of him. It looked like a shadow panther that he had seen countless times. Its eyes were eerie and cold. At this moment, the two of them looked at each other. There was an obvious hint of surprise in the black panther's eerie eyes. It seemed to be surprised that it did not hit the opponent's head. But it did not stop. It moved forward again like a black light and arrived in front of Zichen in an instant. All of this took a long time to describe, but it actually happened very quickly. When the Black Panther realized that it did not kill the human, it launched another attack. Its speed was very fast, and its reaction was swift. But Zichen was even faster. The moment the Holy Defense Talisman shattered, Zichen immediately activated the tripartite Holy Defense Talisman. Or rather, when the first Holy Defense Talisman shattered and formed a defense, Zichen's second defense had already appeared. Tripartite Defense Talisman Formation. The Black Panther's sharp claws, which were as cold as weapons, landed on it. With a loud bang, a powerful force landed on the light shield. Zichen flew backward again. As he flew backward, cracks appeared on the defensive light shield on his body. Crack! 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 Above his head, 3 Holy Defense Talismans exploded and the defense disappeared. Zichen landed 100 feet away and was able to catch his breath. At this moment, there was a deep claw mark on his chest. Blood kept gushing out. He was injured, but fortunately, it was not fatal. The Black Panther landed on the ground and assumed a battle stance. Phew! Looking at his injuries, Zichen exhaled. His expression was very ugly. It was the first time he was injured like this by a 2-star talisman beast. Swoosh! The Black Panther attacked again like a black lightning bolt. This time, 6 Holy Defense Talismans appeared above Zichen's head. Hexad Talisman Array. His eyes were cold and sharp as if they contained a blade as he stared at the approaching Black Panther. The Black Panther's sharp claws were like weapons. They hit Zichen again. Bang! There was another loud bang, but this time, the Black Panther was sent flying. Zichen's defense was intact. Looking at the Black Panther rolling out, Zichen's eyes flashed with killing intent. Die! 3 Holy Thunder Talismans appeared above his head. They formed a talisman array and launched an attack. The powerful attack landed on the ground. The Black Panther's figure moved far away, but it avoided the attack. After missing the attack, the Holy Thunder Talisman's power was greatly depleted. It immediately exploded and the remaining power fell again. This time, the Black Panther stretched out its claws and directly shattered the power of the Holy Thunder. Buzz! In the sky, as the tripartite Holy Thunder Array disappeared, another 6 Holy Thunder Talismans soared into the sky and formed a 6 Directions Array. An even more terrifying power fell from the sky and targeted the Black Panther. The Black Panther dodged continuously like a fish swimming in the water. It actually avoided the attacks. Such a scene made Zichen's expression extremely ugly. The battle had lasted until now, and he had already wasted many holy talismans. Even if he killed the Black Panther, it would be a loss. Looking at the Black Panther's dodging figure, his body lit up again. Another holy talisman appeared. 2 lines of light flashed on it, but it was not the Holy Thunder Talisman. It was the 2-star Holy Thunder Talisman that he had obtained previously. Seeing that the Black Panther was dodging at an extremely fast speed, Zichen could only use the second type of Holy Talisman. After the 2-star Holy Talisman appeared, it immediately shattered. A powerful wave surged out from it. In the next moment, a huge beast shadow with lightning flashing around it appeared out of thin air. The beast shadow's body was in an illusory state. It was not its true form, but its eyes were extremely cold as they fell on the Black Panther that was running away. A strange wave spread out, and the beast's shadow went straight for the Black Panther. The Black Panther that was running away was locked on by the strange power. It immediately turned around and stared at the beast's shadow. A trace of fear appeared in its cold eyes. The beast's shadow approached and collided with the Black Panther. Boom! The beast's shadow's body exploded, and a huge crater appeared on the ground. It extended for nearly 100 feet. The Black Panther lay in the middle of the crater. Its body was dripping with blood, and it was in a severely injured state. After seeing this scene, Zichen had a deeper understanding of the Holy Thunder Soul. Chapter 3483. This was the first time Zichen had used the soul of the Sacred Thunder in such a difficult battle. He hadn't expected that this kind of second-grade sacred talisman would have the special effect of locking onto a target. The Black Panther collapsed in the deep pit. It was seriously injured, but it wasn't dead yet. In the sky, the sixth-direction array still had its last bit of energy left. Zichen activated it. Lightning fell from the sky and struck the injured Black Panther, killing it. Countless fragmented sacred talismans danced in the sky before turning into specks of light and disappearing. Zichen walked forward. Every time he killed a 2-star talisman beast, he would obtain a soul stone. This time, as expected, there was an additional imprint crystal beside the soul stone. Seeing this imprint, Zichen's eyes immediately lit up. Back when he had obtained the soul of the Sacred Thunder, he had seen the same imprint. Could this also be a sacred talisman art? Zichen bent down and picked up the imprint first before picking up the soul stone. The other second-grade sacred talisman papers were scattered to the side. There were 12 of them, far less than what he had used in this battle. Probing his soul into the imprint, Zichen's face revealed a look of joy. This was indeed a sacred talisman art. It was related to speed. Gale Talisman. There were no grades and it could increase one's speed. Recalling the terrifying speed of the Black Panther, Zichen was very interested in this Gale Talisman. He hurriedly collected the sacred talisman papers on the ground and left. Through the previous battle, Zichen had already concluded that the power of the 3 elements sacred talisman array couldn't compare to the soul of the Sacred Thunder. Therefore, in the following battles, Zichen changed his strategy. Unless it was a very difficult battle where he had to use a talisman array, he would directly use the 6th-direction array. Otherwise, he would use the soul of the Sacred Thunder to resolve all other battles. Just like this, Zichen continued to experiment with the 9 Extremes talisman array. This kind of talisman array consumed a lot of soul power, so Zichen hadn't succeeded yet. Along the way, Zichen encountered a few more sacred talisman masters. Fortunately, they didn't fight. In the process of Zichen going deeper, his soul power was also increasing rapidly. To a sacred talisman master, this place was a holy land for cultivation. Furthermore, Zichen had the soul-gathering crystal on him, so his soul had improved very quickly. As the battles continued, the number of spirit stones and 2-star sacred runes he had accumulated was also very impressive. After a battle ended and Zichen cleaned up the battlefield, he found another ink river. This ink river was of the 2nd grade. After collecting some sacred ink, he began to draw talismans by the river. It was still the Holy Thunder Soul. However, after the completion of the sacred rune this time, Zichen clearly felt that the Sacred Thunder Soul had undergone new changes. Has it finally materialized? A smile appeared on Zichen's face. It seems that you have reached the peak of rank 2. The soul of Holy Lightning was divided into 2 stages. The former was an illusory beast image, while the latter was a physical entity, so it was naturally more powerful. Along the way, Zichen encountered more and more sacred talisman masters. Everyone was walking in the same direction. That was everyone's destination, and also the final place of opportunity. Not everyone had enmity towards Zichen. Only a small portion of them did. And this portion of people who had enmity towards Zichen had deliberately suppressed it after coming here. To be able to come here, everyone had their own strength and means. Moreover, everyone was here for the opportunity, so they naturally did not want to cause too much trouble. Following the crowd, Zichen walked into the depths, or rather, walked out of the talisman forest. Everyone was gathered here. During this time, Zichen saw Renjing and Qianli, who had deliberately targeted him last time. Qianli also noticed Zichen, and a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Then, a cold glint flashed in his eyes. "Zichen, come to me!" Renjing waved at Zichen, and Zichen walked toward Renjing. During this time, many people's gazes fell on him, and some of them revealed a cold glint in their eyes. Zichen ignored these unfriendly gazes and walked to Renjing. "How was your harvest?" Renjing asked with a smile. "Not bad," Zichen said. "Oh, I haven't congratulated you for breaking through to 2-star. Renjing, who was smiling and speaking, suddenly transmitted his voice. "There has been a rumor going around that you sent the Leijing family out." Zichen did not know how to respond and fell silent. "Whether it's true or not, you have to be careful. Do you see that person, Leijing Hongyan? He's a 3-star sacred talisman master, and there's a great chance that he will advance to 4-star after entering the talisman forest." Renjing was still transmitting his words. Zichen secretly glanced in the direction of Leijing Hongyan. At this moment, Leijing Hongyan was standing with his hands behind his back, looking at the talisman forest in front. As his back was facing them, he did not notice Zichen's gaze. There were 3 people beside Leijing Hongyan. One of them seemed to have noticed Zichen's gaze and turned to look at Zichen. A sinister smile appeared on his face, and a murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Zichen immediately retracted his gaze. "His name is Zhu De, and he's one of the 3 guards beside Leijing Hongyan. The 3 of them are also 3-star sacred talisman masters." Leijing Hongyan alone had 3 3-star sacred talisman masters. Including Zhu De, there were 4 of them. Looking at the talisman palace's side, it seemed that Renjing and Qianli were both 3-star sacred talisman masters. When you go deeper, other than being careful of the Leijing family, you also have to be careful of Qianli. I heard that he has been in contact with the Leijing family these days. Renjing continued to transmit his voice. The Leijing family is extremely powerful, and can faintly compete with the Talisman Palace. Over the years, they have been constantly poaching people from the Talisman Palace at high prices. I suspect that Qianli has already sided with the Talisman Palace. Zichen remembered all of this in his heart. "Do you have enough holy talismans on you?" Renjing suddenly asked. Zichen nodded, indicating that he had enough. He had many holy talismans on him, and all of them were 2-star sacred talismans. After entering the talisman forest, there will be some talisman realms of various sizes. After killing the talisman beast in the talisman realms, a talisman pool will appear. The talisman pool is filled with soul power, which you can absorb. Then, a soul guiding stone will appear at the bottom of the talisman pool. That's the key to entering the depths. This time, Renjing did not transmit his voice, but used a normal voice. He deliberately lowered his voice. "Without the soul guiding stone, you won't be able to enter the depths and obtain the final great opportunity. Moreover, you have to be careful. After discovering the talisman pool, everyone can enter, but there's only one soul guiding stone." Zichen nodded solemnly. No wonder Renjing would ask if he had enough holy talismans on him. The talisman forest is very special. It's a place that truly tests sacred talisman masters. Along with the opportunity, there are extremely strict rules. Even if I give you a 3-star sacred talisman, you won't be able to use it due to your cultivation level. Chapter 3484. Renjing told Zichen everything he knew, and his tone was very kind. This made Zichen a little confused. The 2 of them had never interacted before. Even if Fu Lao mentioned it, he shouldn't be so nice to him. Renjing seemed to have seen through Zichen's doubts and said, "I've heard about you. You're one of the few Saint Talisman Masters who are still willing to trade with the Talisman Hall after interacting with Wan He. Just from this point alone, you're much stronger than the others." Zichen was very surprised. He didn't expect this to be the reason. However, He was also a little ashamed because he didn't only cooperate with the Talisman Hall, he also cooperated with Wan He. Also, because Elder Fu thinks highly of you and thinks highly of you, he repeatedly sent me voice transmissions to ask me to help you if I meet you. Zichen suddenly understood. So that's the reason. The talisman pools in the talisman forest are also different in size. Therefore, most of the 3-star Saint Talisman Masters will look for the bigger talisman pools. You just need to avoid those places. Renjing was obviously reminding Zichen not to be too greedy. It was good enough to obtain a soul guiding stone in a small place that others looked down on. Zichen thanked him gratefully. The talisman forest was right in front of them. From afar, it looked like a huge forest without any abnormalities. As time passed, the forest in front of them finally changed. The trees disappeared and turned into saint talismans, floating in front of them. Countless runes lit up on the saint talismans, shining brightly. The talisman forest has opened. Let's go! Lei Jinghongyan was standing at the front. When the countless saint talismans appeared, he entered in a flash. 3 guards followed closely behind him. Before entering, the Saint Talisman Master called Zhu De looked back at Zichen and made a throat-slitting gesture with his hand. Zichen's eyes turned cold as he looked at the other party. Although there are many opportunities inside, remember, you must obtain the soul guiding stone. It's the key to whether you can convert all the soul stones here into soul energy. After Renjing finished speaking, his figure flashed and entered. Zichen was only a 2-star. As long as he was careful, there wouldn't be much of a problem. As for the great opportunity inside, it was something that he, as a 3-star, had to fight for. Zichen noticed that the first to enter the Talisman Forest were the 3-star Sacred Talisman Masters. All the 2-star Sacred Talisman Masters were waiting outside. After all the 3-star Sacred Talisman Masters entered, the 2-star Sacred Talisman Masters entered as well. Zichen was also one of the 2 stars. He didn't deliberately stay in front or behind. After entering the Talisman Forest, Zichen found that he was surrounded by saint runes. He couldn't see the runes of these saint runes clearly, so he couldn't tell what kind of saint runes they were. Just as Zichen was carefully dodging these saint talismans, he inadvertently discovered that these saint talismans were illusory. They didn't have any substance, so he could easily pass through them. He was very surprised. He reached out to touch it, and it passed through in an instant. Then, he no longer had any scruples and flew forward. Countless saint talismans came into contact with his body, but it was as if he was in another space. He didn't know how long he had gone, but the people in front of him had disappeared. Those behind him also gradually disappeared. Just as Zichen was feeling surprised, his body came into contact with another saint talisman. However, this time, the saint talisman wasn't illusory, but real. A ripple was emitted from it, as if a door had suddenly opened. Zichen's body disappeared after coming into contact with the ripple. Another space appeared in Zichen's vision. This space wasn't big, about 200 feet wide. There were more than a dozen 2-star talisman beasts in this space. In addition, there were 2 2-star Sacred Talisman Masters. The 2 of them seemed to be in a state of cooperation. When they saw Zichen suddenly appear here, they cast a cold gaze at him. Either scram or die! A cold voice came from one of them. Zichen looked around. There didn't seem to be a way out. The 2 of them seemed to have noticed this. The one who spoke earlier sneered. Since there's no way out, then die! As he spoke, several saint talismans flew into the sky and shattered. Then, a powerful attack went straight for Zichen. In front of Zichen, a gale talisman shattered, and a light of power shrouded his body. His figure flashed, and his speed suddenly increased, avoiding the attack that fell from the sky. At the same time, a Saint Thunder Soul shattered, and a huge beast shadow appeared from it, flying straight for the 2 2-star Sacred Talisman Masters. The 2 of them didn't want to be outdone. They threw out their saint talismans one after another, and rumbling sounds continued to ring out. This was a battle between Sacred Talisman Masters. During this time, Zichen relied on his extreme speed to constantly move around, avoiding one attack after another. At the same time, he also threw out Saint Talismans to attack the two of them. Just as the three of them were fiercely fighting each other, terrifying fluctuations continued to spread. Those talisman beasts were unfortunately hit and died one after another. As the energy of the first Gale talisman disappeared, Zichen estimated that the two of them had used more than 100 2-star Saint Talismans. He had also used 8 Saint Thunder Souls. This was a considerable consumption for Zichen. Fortunately, more than half of the talisman beasts here had been killed. Without hesitation, Zichen used the second Gale talisman. He continued to dodge while attacking. At the same time, he guided the attacks to other talisman beasts. Under this crazy bombardment, all the talisman beasts here were killed. Only the 3 of them were left. Zichen, who was escaping, suddenly stopped. He looked at the 2 of them and said, "Thank you for your help. I'll send you back now." As his voice fell, 2 brighter Saint Talismans appeared in front of Zichen. Pa! Pa! The 2 Saint Talismans shattered at the same time. Immediately after, a tyrannical fluctuation emerged. 2 huge beasts that seemed to be real appeared out of thin air. This was the Saint Thunder Soul in its corporeal state. It was also Zichen's most powerful attack at the moment. The 2 huge beasts surged with countless lightning bolts as they flew toward the 2 2-star Saint Talisman Masters. Their expressions changed drastically. Their bodies lit up and formed the tripartite Saint Talisman array. As the huge beasts approached, a roar sounded. The tripartite Saint Talisman array instantly shattered. 2 mournful screams rang out. When the violent energy dissipated, the 2 Saint Talisman Masters were nowhere to be seen. The bodies of the dead talisman beasts turned into countless specks of light that gathered in the center of this space. Gradually, the specks of light turned into liquid and turned into a pool of water that emitted a bright luster. Within the sparkling pool of water, there was a tyrannical fluctuation of soul energy. Zichen walked forward and sat cross-legged above it. He began to absorb the soul energy. The soul energy entered his sea of consciousness and was swept away by the black vortex. He began to refine it a second time and strengthen his soul. Chapter 3485. Zichen clearly felt that his soul was rapidly improving. A wisp of pleasant surprise appeared on his face. If this continued, he believed that he would soon be able to break through to become a 3-star Saint Talisman Master. After 15 minutes, the soul energy here was completely absorbed. Subsequently, a black soul stone appeared. It was covered in fine runes that enveloped the entire black stone. Zichen picked up the soul stone. He didn't sense any soul energy from it. Obviously, it was only a guide. A ripple appeared in front of him and formed a door. Zichen walked in. The ripple behind him disappeared and Zichen found himself in the talisman forest again. This caused his eyes to light up and he was delighted in his heart. Because this indicated that there was an extremely great possibility that he would encounter a second talisman realm. In fact, it was just as Zichen had said. After advancing for a distance, he discovered a second talisman realm. This time, his luck was better. There was no one else in it, only a few dozen talisman beasts. After continuously throwing out talismans, the battle that didn't require any technique ended quickly. All the dead talisman beasts transformed into specks of light that gathered in front of him and formed a soul talisman pool. After Zichen refined the soul energy, he didn't obtain a new soul guiding stone. He wasn't dispirited by this. After all, he already had one. He continued forward. During this period, his luck was very good and he encountered a third talisman realm. He easily finished the battle. After refining 3 talisman pools, Zichen's soul energy improved greatly. Although he still hadn't broken through to become a 3-star Saint Talisman Master, he wasn't far from it. After that, Zichen seemed to have used up all his luck. During this period, he didn't encounter any more talisman realms. Just as he was about to reach the depths, another ripple appeared. Zichen's eyes lit up and he immediately walked in. Obviously, this was another talisman realm. However, as soon as he entered this talisman realm, Zichen's expression changed drastically. This place was extremely vast, and he couldn't see the end of it. As far as the eye could see, there were more than 500 talisman beasts. There were many talisman beasts and many saint talisman masters here. There were a total of over 20 people in the surroundings, and they were surrounding and killing those talisman beasts. Countless saint runes descended from the sky, transforming into rolling thunderbolts. Zichen actually saw many familiar faces amongst these saint symbol masters. They were the people who had entered the talisman hall with him. Zichen was very surprised. Then, his eyes became incomparably fiery. With so many talisman beasts, once they were all killed, the amount of spiritual energy he would obtain would be unimaginable. Even if everyone split it, it should be enough for him to break through. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Zichen saw Qianli. His expression changed. He didn't expect his luck to be so bad that he would meet the other party here. Qianli, who had just killed a 3-star talisman beast, also noticed Zichen's arrival at this moment. He was startled at first, then a sneer appeared on his face. "I was wondering who it was. So it's you. Why, are you here to beg for my protection?" Sensing the killing intent in his opponent's eyes, Zichen slowly retreated. This guy really wanted to kill him. At this moment, another 3-star talisman beast appeared and charged towards Qianli. Qianli disdainfully glanced at Zichen, then turned around to deal with the 3-star talisman beast. At the same time, an indifferent voice sounded. "Go and kill him!" A 2-star saint symbol master immediately left the battlefield and chased after Zichen. Zichen quickly fled and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The 2-star saint symbol master quickly chased after him. Since these people wanted to kill him, Zichen naturally wouldn't sit and wait for death. After leaving the battlefield far away, he stood there and waited for his opponent to arrive. "I thought you had run away. I didn't expect you to have the guts to stand here." When the person saw Zichen, he was first surprised, then he sneered. "Do you think that you are qualified to fight with me just because you have broken through to 2-star? Let me tell you, there is a huge gap between 2-star. Zichen didn't waste time talking nonsense with this guy. At this moment, a crazy plan appeared in his mind. Once this plan succeeded, his harvest this time would be boundless. In order to save Saint Talismans, Zichen used a Saint Thunder Soul. A materialized giant beast appeared, roaring and attacking the opponent. There was no surprise. The complacent expression on the opponent's face froze, and the defense he put up in fear was instantly shattered. He died and left this world. After killing the opponent, Zichen began to turn back from another direction, appearing to be very cautious. The battle ahead was still ongoing. Because there were too many talisman beasts, everyone used their full strength. Saint talismans were madly thrown at the talisman beasts, as if they were worthless. Zichen noticed that there were many 3-star talisman beasts. Qianli was really powerful, and he seemed to be very skillful in fighting 3-star talisman beasts. Zichen hid in the distance, quietly watching the battle. He had to admit that everyone who could persist until now had rich battle experience, so even if they encountered so many talisman beasts, they were still able to deal with them calmly. Almost everyone's defense was the tripartite holy defense formation, and only a few used the 6 directions defense formation. However, everyone had a tacit understanding, and no one died during this time. As the battle continued, the number of talisman beasts decreased rapidly. Many people temporarily retreated because they had exhausted too much energy. At this time, Qianli had already killed 3 3-star talisman beasts. His battle strength was really strong. Boom! 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 Qianli did not use the 3-star Sacred Thunder Talisman, but another kind of 3-star Saint Talisman, which could summon terrifying thunder fire like meteorites. A 3-star talisman beast that was hit by the thunder fire would be seriously injured immediately, and Qianli would definitely be able to kill it with the second attack. During this time, dozens of 2-star talisman beasts were swept by the aftermath of the battle and died here. Once Qianli killed all the remaining 3-star talisman beasts, this battle would come to an end. Zichen looked around and saw that the 2-star talisman beasts were decreasing in number. He estimated that it was about time. He did not want to waste any more time, so he appeared in front of everyone and slowly walked forward. Zichen did not hide and even deliberately released his aura, so he was seen by everyone as soon as he appeared. The expressions of the crowd changed. Obviously, Zichen had appeared alive, which meant that the 2-star Saint Talisman Master who went to kill Zichen was already dead. Qianli narrowed his eyes slightly, and a chill emerged. Everyone, don't misunderstand. I have no ill intentions. I also want to join this battle. Chapter 3486. Zichen's attitude was extremely sincere, which made many people slightly stunned. However, they soon understood why Zichen was doing this. After coming here, they could only leave after killing all the talisman beasts. Zichen was obviously worried that he would not be able to leave this place alive. After all, there were other opportunities after leaving this place. We're all on the same side. I'm willing to help everyone for free, Zichen said again. I don't want any reward. I just want to kill these talisman beasts for everyone. No need, Qianli snorted coldly. We're all on the same side, Zichen said again. Are you worthy of being on the same side? Qianli sneered. The killing intent in his eyes was very strong. Zichen said helplessly. In that case, I'll retreat. Don't worry, I have no intention of robbing you. Everyone, continue to kill the talisman beasts. Zichen, who was speaking, retreated backwards as expected. No need. You'd better die. You can return the favor to Brother Hengyan. Qianli waved his hand and said coldly. A few more of you go. Be careful. Immediately, 5 people walked out from the crowd and flew towards Zichen. Seeing this, Zichen's expression changed drastically. He retreated and shouted. Qianli, why are you killing your own people? I've said it before. You're not worthy of being on the same side as me. Qianli's expression was cold. Thunder and fire meteorites fell from the sky and killed another 3-star talisman beast. Looking at the talisman beasts that were getting fewer and fewer, his eyes were burning with passion. If he could refine the soul power here, he might be able to advance to 4-star without having to go deeper. It was possible that he would be the first to advance to 4-star. Just as his heart was burning with passion, he heard a terrifying energy fluctuation coming from behind him. He turned around and saw a Saint Talisman exploding under the feet of the few 2-star Saint Talisman Masters. Then, giant talisman beasts appeared one after another, and drowned the 5 2-star Saint Talisman Masters in an instant. Zichen, who had originally fled, reappeared at the end of everyone's line of sight. His expression had also become incomparably cold. Since you're not one of us, don't blame me for being impolite. Zichen charged into the rumbling thunder. During this time, the Holy Talisman's light flickered. When the energy dissipated, the Holy Talisman Masters had already disappeared. After instantly killing 5 2-star Saint Talisman Masters, Zichen looked up at Qianli and asked coldly. How do you feel? Kill him! Qianli's face was filled with anger as he uttered a roar. There's no need to trouble you to send yourselves to your deaths. I'll go there directly. Zichen flew forward, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Arrogant fellow! You're courting death! At this moment, there were still over 20 Saint Symbol Masters present. When they saw Zichen charging over alone, anger surfaced on every single one of their faces. They shouted loudly. Holy talismans appeared one after another, and then shattered. Powerful attacks descended from the sky. A talisman appeared in front of Zichen. It was the Gale talisman. The talisman paper shattered, and a light enveloped his body. Whoosh! Zichen, who was already extremely fast, forcibly increased his speed by a large margin. Those attacks that were about to land on him were instantly thrown to the back of his mind. He was like a bolt of lightning, charging into the crowd. Everyone, enjoy the big gift I've prepared for you. Nearly 100 holy talismans flew out in front of Zichen. There were 2-star holy thunder talismans, but most of them were 2-star holy thunder souls. In fact, with Zichen's current spiritual power, it was impossible for him to activate so many holy talismans to attack. Fortunately, he didn't need to activate them. He only needed to explode them. Boom! 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 These holy talismans shattered in an instant, and a terrifying energy surged out like a violent storm. These energies were carried by Zichen's spiritual power into the sky. Boom! Various energies exploded in the sky. The power of thunder instantly spread out, extending hundreds of feet away. Not only were the nearby Saint Talisman Masters covered, but some talisman beasts that were still alive were also enveloped by this energy. Blood-curdling screams were incessant. Zichen, who was below, had already used the Gale talisman to escape. As he escaped, he continued to throw out holy talismans. One by one, the holy talismans shattered in the sky and turned into terrifying energies. Countless terrifying energies raged in the sky. This was an indiscriminate attack. Even Zichen was desperately dodging at this moment. This was because this was an uncontrollable energy. With his spiritual power, he still couldn't control it to launch an accurate attack. In another direction, Qianli, who was still killing 3-star talisman beasts, was instantly dumbfounded when he saw this scene. He didn't expect Zichen to dare to do this. One should know that the terrifying indiscriminate energy could not only kill the surrounding people, but it could also kill Zichen himself. Qianli, who originally had the strength to stop Zichen, stood in the distance and let his companions cry for help. "I hope you can give me a little surprise." Qianli, who was originally hesitant, saw an unexpected surprise at this moment. Hence, he turned around and continued to kill those 3-star talisman beasts. He ignored the cries for help coming from all around. Behind him, the explosions continued. Those Saint Talisman Masters who had managed to escape with great difficulty with their defenses were quickly drowned by new terrifying attacks. Boom! A thunder-fire meteorite fell from the sky and hit an injured 3-star talisman beast, killing it instantly. Looking at the last 3-star talisman beast in front of him, Qianli smiled coldly. With a wave of his hand, 2 more thunder-fire sacred talismans appeared and killed the opponent. At this point, all the 3-star talisman beasts were killed by him alone. Then, he looked down at the battlefield in front of him. The battle there was about to come to an end. Zichen continuously threw out talisman papers and rapidly dodged. As he killed those Saint Talisman Masters, he also killed the nearby talisman beasts. "Seems like he has the advantage of speed." A disdainful smile flashed across Qianli's eyes as he took in everything. "But that's all there is to it." Thunder rumbled and terrifying energy spread. Zichen was like a ray of light as he advanced on the ground. When he could no longer see the enemy, he finally stopped. At this moment, he was sweating profusely and panting. Throwing out hundreds or even thousands of Saint Talismans in succession had consumed a lot of his soul, but the effect was extremely good. When he looked back, he could no longer hear the screams and the terrifying energy. All the Saint Talisman Masters had been forcibly sent out of this world by him. When the energy dissipated, 2 talisman beasts were still alive, but they were also severely injured. Zichen did not kill them immediately. Instead, he looked back at Qianli. The two of them looked at each other. Qianli's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. "Actually, at this time, you shouldn't be thinking of killing me. You should be thanking me." Chapter 3487. Thank you? Qianli stared at Zichen and said coldly. "What qualifications do you have for me to thank you? Because you wanted to monopolize the resources here and couldn't find a chance to kill them. Or rather, you don't have the strength to kill so many people at once," Zichen said indifferently. "But I helped you. So, shouldn't you thank me? A bunch of nonsense." Qianli's face turned gloomy. "Do you think I'll let you go just because of your nonsense?" Zichen smiled and said, "Whether it's nonsense or not, you know very well in your heart. Speaking of which, when I first came here, I already expected you to do this. There are so many talisman beasts in such a big place. The amount of soul energy gathered here is beyond imagination. I can understand your desire to monopolize it. In fact, I also have the same thoughts." Hearing Zichen's words, Qianli immediately sneered. Kid, you sneak attack so many of your companions in the Talisman Palace, and now you dare to boast about robbing the resources here. It seems that I have to send you out. Let's see how you explain it to everyone then, Zichen said. It seems that you want to be a hero? Then let's see if you have the strength. As soon as he finished speaking, a light flashed in front of Zichen. 3 sacred Thunder Soul talismans appeared. Boom! 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 The 3 sacred talismans exploded and 3 giant beasts appeared. Each of the giant beasts was surging with a terrifying aura as they charged towards Qianli. Looking at Zichen's attack, Qianli said disdainfully, I thought you had some unique means. It turns out that you're still counting on it. You're really ignorant. Don't you know how big the gap between 2 stars and 3 stars is? Qianli pointed forward with one hand and a thunder fire meteorite fell from the sky and smashed forward. Boom! The thunder fire meteorite exploded and a terrifying energy engulfed the 3 giant beasts. As the energy rolled, 2 of the giant beasts exploded. Qianli proudly waited for the 3rd giant beast to explode. Unexpectedly, the giant beast didn't explode. Instead, it broke through the surging thunder fire energy and immediately tried to devour Qianli. Qianli's expression became cold as he harumphed. A dazzling light appeared in front of him and pierced through the massive beast's body like a sharp sword. You want to deal with me with your mere 2-star attack? The energy in front of him dissipated and Qianli mocked disdainfully. How many years have I been stuck in the 3-star sacred symbol master realm? How can a brat like you, who has just entered 2-star, shake it? Zichen's expression was still calm as he said, You're celebrating too early. He pointed at the sky and said, Look over there. It's something good that I left for you. Qianli subconsciously raised his head to look at the sky. When he saw what was in the sky, the disdain on his face disappeared and was replaced by shock. This is the 9 Extremes glyph array? In the sky, the 9 saint talismans combined and revolved around the firmament. How can you possibly grasp the 9 Extremes symbol array? Qianli cried out involuntarily. He found it hard to believe. The talisman array had a very high requirement for the soul. Even he, a 3-star martial artist, was unable to precisely control the 9 Extremes talisman array. Putting aside 2-star holy lightning talismans, even 1-star holy lightning talismans wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure. This was a fundamental difference in the soul. It didn't matter if one's cultivation level was high or low. Now Zichen, a mere 2-star martial artist, was actually able to control the 9 Extremes symbol array. How high was the grade of his soul? Goodbye. Zichen smiled coldly and waved at Qianli. The 9 Extremes symbol array glowed. Terrifying energy began to gather and descend. Heaven and earth suddenly lit up as a fused holy lightning descended from the sky. Faced with this extremely fast and terrifying holy lightning, Qianli had no chance to dodge at all. He could only support a 6 directions defensive array. This 6 directions defensive array was formed by 2-star holy defense talismans, not 3-star. As the holy lightning descended, a loud boom resounded throughout heaven and earth. I won't let you off! Qianli didn't scream. Instead, he left behind such a resentful sentence and disappeared from this world as expected. Fu Lao sat cross-legged. The souls of all the Saint Talisman Masters had entered the Talisman Forest. He was responsible for protecting everyone here. People came out one after another. Their luck wasn't good. After being expelled, they woke up. The people who had woken up couldn't leave for the time being, so they continued to sit cross-legged and began to cultivate. If they wanted to leave, they had to wait for the last person to come out. As time passed, Fu Lao suddenly opened his eyes. There was a puzzled look in his eyes. He sensed that many souls had suddenly returned. The trial is over? According to the usual time, it wasn't time yet. He looked ahead and saw that the Saint Talisman Masters had woken up one by one. However, Fu Lao didn't see joy on their faces. Instead, he saw anger and cold murderous intent. They stood up and cast cold gazes at Zichen, who was at the front. What's going on? Fu Lao looked at the strange expressions of the people and said in a deep voice, "Is the trial over, or did something happen?" One of the Saint Talisman Masters who had broken through to 2 stars said, "Hall Master, the trial isn't over yet. It was that damned Zichen who sneak attacked us." Fu Lao was slightly startled when he heard this. He looked at the people again and said, "You mean, it was Zichen who sent you out?" The other person nodded. The others were filled with righteous indignation. "All of you were sent out by Zichen alone?" Fu Lao asked again. "That's right. That guy is too insidious." The Saint Talisman Master who spoke earlier said. He relied on his speed and kept throwing out Saint Talismans. In just a few moments, 1,000 Saint Talismans exploded. We couldn't dodge at all. Fu Lao looked at the angry people and said again, "You all understand the rules, right?" The people were unwilling. No matter how much they hated Zichen, they couldn't go forward and destroy his body. This was the rule. "Hall Master, don't worry. We won't break the rules. Although Zichen sneak attacked us, he can forget about getting any benefits. We believe that senior brother Qianli will avenge us." The others nodded again. Qianli was the only one who was still inside, and he was a 3-star while Zichen was only a 2-star. It seemed that it wouldn't be a problem to kill Zichen. Fu Lao still wanted to ask what had happened. Why did they fight among themselves? However, before he could ask, he sensed a powerful soul returning. The others also sensed it and turned their heads to look at where the soul had returned. In the next moment, everyone widened their eyes and looked in front of them in shock. The 3-star Qianli stood up. He had actually returned? How was this possible? How could a 2-star Zichen kill him? "Zichen, I want you dead." Qianli roared and pounced on Zichen without hesitation. In the huge talisman realm, Zichen, who had killed Qianli, turned around and looked at the other 2 severely injured 2-star talisman beasts. He had used 2 holy thunder talismans to kill them. Chapter 3488. Under the dumbfounded gazes of the crowd, Qianli ignored the rules and charged at Zichen. At this moment, his eyes were red and filled with murderous intent. Buzz! A ripple barrier appeared in front of Qianli. With a bang, Qianli crashed into the barrier. The strong rebounding force sent him flying. "What's going on?" Fu Lao's cold voice sounded. After landing, Qianli woke up slightly. Seeing Fu Lao's cold gaze, he hurriedly got up and said, "Zichen sneaked an attack on me." Fu Lao said in a low voice, "Do you know the rules?" Qianli lowered his head, but the anger on his face was still burning in his heart. "What happened?" Fu Lao asked. "Why are you here?" The others were also puzzled. How could a 3-star Qianli be defeated by Zichen? Qianli said angrily, "Zichen sneaked an attack on me with the 9 extreme talisman array when I was unprepared." Hearing Qianli's words, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Zichen was only a 2-star. How could he master the 9 extreme talisman array? One had to know that many of them had not even mastered the 6 directions talisman array. Hearing Qianli's words, Fu Lao already knew the reason. If Zichen could master the 9 extreme talisman array, then the strength of his soul would be much stronger than Qianli's. Among Saint Talisman Masters, the soul was the key. The realm was secondary. It seemed that Qianli's sneak attack was also a big exaggeration. "Do you still remember the rules?" He did not know what had happened, but he obviously did not intend to pursue the matter at this time. His gaze swept across the crowd. The others nodded and returned to their respective jade platforms. However, when their gazes swept past Zichen, they were filled with unwillingness and coldness. If it was not for Zichen this time, they would have gained a lot. However, there were some who looked at the angry Qianli with some schadenfreude. Everyone was a saint spirit. None of them were fools. Qianli did not rescue in time previously because his motive was not pure. He wanted to monopolize the soul power there. Now, even he came out, but didn't obtain anything. Quite a few people felt a bit better. Of course, it was only relatively balanced. The hatred they had for Zichen had never lessened at all. Countless specks of light converged in front of him. This time, Zichen had truly experienced what a symbol pool was. The pure soul liquid had an area of more than 30 meters, and the soul power contained within was several times more than what Zichen had refined before. This was a truly great opportunity. Zichen was pleasantly surprised. He quickly flew into the air above the rune pool. He had practically used up all his holy runes in this battle. Right now, if something unexpected were to happen, Zichen could only be expelled. Therefore, in order to avoid any unexpected problems, he could only quickly refine the soul energy here. Sitting cross-legged above the talisman pool, Zichen's knowledge sea emitted a powerful devouring force. It was partly due to the effect of the cultivation method and also the soul amassing crystal. Pure soul power converged in his knowledge sea. It was like a huge pillar of soul water that entered the spinning black vortex. The vortex formed by the dark ghost soul devouring technique was spinning rapidly. The voice of the dark ghost could be heard from time to time. The souls that were constantly being torn, crushed, and refined were finally ravaged by the vortex and turned into pure soul power, replenishing Zichen's soul. The symbol pool below was shrinking. Zichen's soul was strengthening. A long time passed like this. When the energy in the symbol pool was reduced by half, Zichen's soul realm finally broke through. His soul had become even more powerful, and there was an obvious qualitative change. At this point, Zichen believed that the next holy thunder symbol he wrote would definitely be a 3-star one. At this moment, there was still half of the symbol pool left. Zichen did not hesitate to continue refining. Apart from stabilizing his current realm, he could also continue to strengthen his soul. After all, his true realm was 4-star. Only when a Holy Talisman Master reached 4-star could he be considered a qualified Holy Talisman Master. Similarly, only in this way could a Holy Talisman Master become another powerful reliance for Zichen in the upcoming battle. However, at present, such a Holy Talisman Master did not exist in the entire Holy Thunder clan. The remaining half of the energy was quickly devoured by Zichen. This time was the same as the previous times. He did not obtain a new soul guiding stone. However, Zichen's soul had improved by leaps and bounds compared to before. Not only did his soul break through to 3-star, but it also replenished a lot. He was also much closer to 4-star. Zichen's face was filled with joy. He was very happy. This was indeed the cultivation holy land of Holy Talisman Masters. How good would it be if the Holy Thunder clan had a few more places like this? Zichen thought happily in his heart. At this moment, ripples appeared in front of him and formed a door. The door opened and Zichen walked out of the door. After successfully breaking through, he went straight into the depths after appearing. At present, the number of holy talismans on him did not exceed 10, and he could no longer sustain a new battle. Therefore, he had to be very careful to avoid the talisman realms that might appear around him. Therefore, a strange scene occurred. Zichen kept dodging the holy talismans that appeared in front of him, not daring to come into contact with them. In fact, Zichen's worries were completely unnecessary. This was because he had already reached the depths, and he had encountered many talisman realms. His luck was already good enough, and it was impossible for him to encounter them again. After continuing in this way for a while, Zichen walked to the end of the talisman forest. There was a barrier in front of him. As soon as he walked closer, before Zichen could study it carefully, the soul guiding stone that he had obtained earlier flew out of Zichen's storage bag. The soul guiding stone that flew out touched the barrier. In the next moment, ripples appeared on the barrier, and a door that was as wide as a person opened. Zichen walked in smoothly. A bright light appeared in front of him. It was a lightning space. There were more than 20 people standing there. Zichen's gaze quickly swept across the field and saw a familiar person. It was Renjing. When he saw Zichen, he was also very surprised. This time, he did not greet Zichen and stood in place without moving. The others did not move either. The guy called Jude only glanced at him coldly. The killing intent in his eyes was obvious, but he still stood in place without moving. Buzz! Suddenly, ripples appeared in front of him, and a huge mirror appeared in the sky. Countless lightning rays were reflected in the mirror, as if lightning snakes were swimming rapidly. The space under the mirror was also distorted and changed, and finally, it turned into a huge lightning pool. "The mirror pool has appeared!" Exclamations came from the side, and many people's eyes were filled with excitement. Lei Jinghongyan was still standing at the front, and he stepped into the lightning pool. His body did not sink, and he was floating above the lightning pool. Chapter 3489. When he saw the thunder fire Qilin, Zichen's expression changed quite a bit. He was very surprised. The thunder fire Kirin was completely formed by soul power. Its aura was overbearing and it looked exceptionally ferocious. Why would a Kirin appear? Just as Zichen was filled with doubts, he saw the three people behind Lei Jing and Hongyan also step forward. Just as they stepped onto the thunder pool, a strange phenomenon occurred. A black exotic beast appeared beside Zhu De. A tiger and a leopard appeared beside the other two people. The three exotic beasts that were completely formed by souls were undoubtedly full of offensive power. Just as Zichen was still trying to figure out what was going on, Renjing also walked up to them. Soul power flew out from the top of his head and turned into a dark green tree. The tree was surrounded by lightning. Then, more people stepped forward. When everyone stepped onto the thunder pool, other things would appear. Gradually, Zichen guessed the reason. Those things that appeared were probably souls themselves. The 3-star sacred talisman masters stepped onto the thunder pool one after another. Next were the 2-star sacred talisman masters. There were not many of them, only a dozen or so. Zichen followed behind and looked at the things that were formed by the souls of those people. As one person after another moved forward, it was finally Zichen's turn. The moment he stepped onto the thunder pool, a black soul flew out from the top of his head and turned into a huge black vortex that enveloped Zichen. The black vortex spun continuously, emitting a violent wind and the sound of ghosts crying. Zichen's movement was so great that everyone turned their heads to look at him. Unfortunately, all they could see at this moment was a black vortex. At the same time, Zichen could no longer see the others. He could only see the things formed by the souls of those people. In addition, there was no longer an empty space in front of him. It had become a straight road. Those people from before were blocking this road. If Zichen wanted to move forward, he had to confront these people. At this moment, the very conspicuous thunder fire Kirin was at the front of the road. It walked on the road without any obstacles. The other three beasts followed behind him. Zichen, this is where the mirror pool is. Everyone manifests their soul roots. Go ahead without hesitation. The deeper you go, the more soul power you will obtain when the soul stones transform. Only those at the very front have a chance of obtaining the soul-gathering crystal. At this moment, Renjing's voice sounded. Do your best to move forward. Don't care about anyone else. Clearly, when the black vortex had appeared earlier, Renjing had sensed that Zichen's soul strength had risen to 3 stars. That was why he had issued this warning. Within the vortex, Zichen nodded. As he walked forward, those spiritual beings in front of him coldly stared at him. Their eyes were unkind and filled with boundless killing intent. If Renjing had not informed him, Zichen might not have competed with the others. After all, he could obtain opportunities no matter where he was. But now, the position determined the size of the opportunity, so he naturally had to give it his all. He moved forward without hesitation. In front of him was a fire serpent. When it saw Zichen approaching, it immediately issued a warning. Zichen did not stop. The fire serpent flew towards Zichen. Buzz! When the fire serpent approached Zichen, it was swallowed by the vortex. Then, there was a miserable cry. When the fire serpent appeared again, it was behind Zichen. Its aura was much weaker. Zichen moved forward again. At this moment, he thought of a very serious problem. He was clearly in the realm of 3 stars. Why did he follow those 2 stars? However, This 3-star was given to him by Zichen. After all, he had not officially written a 3-star Holy Thunder talisman. Just as Zichen was slightly distracted, 2 more people screamed and appeared behind him. Zichen, who had a strong soul spirit, was naturally able to destroy whoever stood in his way in the 2-star pile. Pushing the 5 people behind him, Zichen didn't know if he was hallucinating, but it seemed like his soul, which was already strong, had grown a little stronger. This time, he carefully sensed that he had collided with another 2 stars. The opponent's soul was instantly swallowed by the black vortex and then squeezed away. During this time, Zichen sensed that a part of the opponent's soul had been forcibly refined by the black vortex. This discovery caused him to be extremely shocked. Looking at the opponent behind him, his aura was obviously much weaker than before. When he moved forward again, those people began to avoid Zichen and did not take the initiative to come into contact with him. Zichen finally arrived at the location of the 3 stars Holy Talisman Master from behind. Standing in front of Zichen was a giant ape. He stared at the approaching Zichen and said coldly, "Kid, get lost!" Zichen naturally did not stop. He walked straight forward. The giant ape clenched his fist and punched at the black vortex. In front, Rinjing, who was in the form of a lightning tree, watched the scene nervously. When the giant ape's fist came into contact with the black vortex, it was as if it was cut by countless sharp blades and was instantly disintegrated. Then, the vortex tore at the giant ape's body and pulled it into the vortex. The giant ape let out a miserable shriek as it swam in a circle within the whirlpool. When it reappeared behind Zichen, its enormous body was noticeably smaller than before. This time, Zichen's perception was clearer and more obvious. His soul had clearly grown stronger. This gave him hope again. When he looked at those in front of him, his eyes were shining. Then, a second, a third, and a fourth. No one's soul could suppress Zichen's black vortex. The moment they came into contact with Zichen, they would be crushed by the vortex and their bodies would be swallowed by the vortex and thrown behind. Hearing those screams, the faces of the people in front of them turned ugly. Obviously, they felt threatened by Zichen's strength. Soon, Zichen arrived in front of the lightning tree. The lightning tree was Rinjing. Was he going to devour him too? Do your best! Rinjing's figure flashed, disappearing from Zichen's side. He took the initiative to make way for Zichen, who walked forward. In front of him were Leijing Hongyan's 3 subordinates. The one facing him was a thunder shadow leopard. Its eyes were red, and it seemed to want to devour people. Zichen increased his speed. The moment the thunder shadow leopard attacked, the black vortex shrouded its body. The weak thunder shadow leopard screamed and appeared behind Zichen. Then, the second person was killed. Zichen stood in front of Zhu De, who was in the form of a black beast. Zhu De said coldly, "Kid, you..." Before he could finish his sentence, Zichen's black vortex had already extended towards him. Zhu De's voice disappeared, and the same miserable scream followed. The two were not on the same level. Leijing Hongyan, who had been moving forward, stopped for the first time. Chapter 3490. This was the first time Leijing Hongyan looked at Zichen. He had to admit that Zichen had given him many surprises. Qianli's failure to come here must have something to do with Lin Fan. Most importantly, in terms of pure soul power, his 3 subordinates had all lost to the other party. He knew his 3 subordinates too well. They had great potential, but he did not expect them to be so weak. "You're not bad. Are you willing to follow me?" Leijing Hongyan, who had turned into the Thunderfire Qilin beast, looked at Zichen and said in a dignified voice. Zhu De and the other 2 were shocked. They did not expect that their boss would lower himself to recruit Lin Fan. "Who are you?" Zichen looked at the Thunderfire Qilin beast and said indifferently. This time, Leijing Hongye and Qianli had caused him a lot of trouble. Qianli was a 3-star sacred talisman master, but he had made things difficult for him. Obviously, it was not because of Leijing Hongye, but because of Leijing Hongyan. During the battle, Qianli had said that as long as he killed Lin Fan, he would return the favor. Kid, you're courting death! Jude shouted angrily from behind. I thought you were smart, but now it seems that you're a fool. Do you really think you can walk over? Lei Jinghongyan said coldly. We'll know if I can walk over or not. Zichen replied indifferently. Kid, you have to think carefully. I've already thought about it. Don't worry. I'll give you 15 minutes to think about it. Lei Jinghongyan's attitude was surprisingly good, which surprised Zichen. At this moment, Ren Zheng's voice was heard. Zichen, he's stalling for time. Go over quickly. There's a time limit here. Once you stop, it will be judged that you've chosen the location. You're courting death. Lei Jinghongyan's body surged with a powerful aura. The Thunderfire Qilin beast roared at the sky. I think you're the one courting death. Zichen snorted and moved forward without hesitation. The black vortex spun and went straight for Lei Jinghongyan. Thunderfire Qilin beast's body surged with a terrifying aura. For a moment, the surroundings were filled with Thunderfire Qi. Zichen's expression was cold. The black vortex extended forward and met the Thunderfire. Qi! 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 As the whirlpool spun at high speed, the Thunderfire was quickly extinguished. In the blink of an eye, the Thunderfire in front of Zichen had completely disappeared. The Thunderfire Kirin beast's eyes were filled with shock. The black vortex continued forward, engulfing the Thunderfire Kirin beast. A furious roar rang out. Countless lightning flames began to spurt out, filling the entire vortex in an instant. At the same time, Lei Jinghongyan's cold voice rang out. Brat, aren't you still able to devour? This time, I will make your body explode. However, as soon as his voice fell, the sound of ghosts crying came from the black vortex. It was as if countless ghosts had appeared and landed on the Thunderfire Kirin beast, then began to tear it apart. Lei Jinghongyan's angry voice gradually turned into a cry of alarm, followed by a miserable shriek. All of the surging lightning and fire were vanishing at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a few breaths of time, all of the lightning flames were swallowed by the black vortex. A dim Thunderfire Kirin appeared behind Zichen. Brat, you're ruining my future! You're courting death! Lei Jinghongyan's angry voice rang out. Behind him, the others looked at the scene in shock. Lei Jinghongyan was the most powerful existence among all the Saint Talisman Masters who came this time, and the foundation of a Saint Talisman Master was the soul. Who would have thought that in the soul confrontation between the two, Lei Jinghongyan, the strongest, could only hold on for a few breaths of time. Zichen ignored him and walked straight forward. This time, no one blocked his way. However, after walking for a while, he gradually felt the pressure. That's enough. Suddenly, an old voice rang out in Zichen's sea of consciousness. Zichen instantly became alert. If he guessed correctly, there was no old man among these people. However, when he looked around, there was no one else. There's no need to go any further. This place is enough for you to exchange for your harvest. The old voice rang out again. This time, Zichen heard it clearly. When he looked back, he should be the only one who heard the voice. Behind them, Lei Jinghongyan no longer moved forward. The Thunderfire Kirin he transformed into looked at Zichen and coldly said, Do you think your position is very close to the front and that you are the one with the greatest harvest? Zichen looked at him when he heard that. The gap between realms can't be erased. How long have we been in this realm? How deep is our foundation? You, on the other hand, have just reached this realm. As he spoke, soul stones appeared around Lei Jinghongyan one after another. In this place, soul stones are the key. Each of the soul stones he took out was the size of a palm, and they were all surging with strong soul power. Zichen could tell at a glance that they were obtained after killing a 3-star talisman beast. This was also Zichen's biggest shortcoming. He reached the 3-star level after entering this place, so he didn't come into contact with any 3-star talisman beast. Naturally, he didn't get a high-grade soul stone. Kid, you should know that the position doesn't determine anything. The soul stones are the most important. Jude said coldly from behind. Do you want to borrow 2 soul stones to make up for the situation? After everyone had settled down in their positions, they began to spread out their spoils around them. Next, the soul stones would be transformed into soul power. Buzz! Powerful soul power surged. Someone at the back was already undergoing the baptism of the mirror pool. A ray of light fell from the lightning mirror in the sky. The light fell on the Saint Talisman Master. Then, the water in the lightning pool surged up and drowned all the soul stones. In an instant, all the soul stones were transformed into soul water. It was like a water dragon that soared into the sky. The water dragon emitted a green light. It was 20 feet long. After circling in the air, it entered the Saint Talisman Master's sea of consciousness. The Saint Talisman Master closed his eyes. In the next moment, a strong wave of energy surged out. The Saint Talisman Master broke through. 2-star to 3-star. Like a chain reaction, more water dragons soared into the sky. Some were big, some were small, some were light, and some were dark. The 2-star cultivators broke through one after another. When it was Renjing's turn, the water dragon formed by his soul stone was 10 feet long. Its luster had turned from green to deep blue. A dragon's roar resounded through heaven and earth. With the help of the soul power, Renjing successfully advanced to 4-star. Then, Jude and the other two also transformed their soul stones. Similar to Renjing, they also broke through one after another. Finally, it was Lei Zheng's turn. He snorted. "Today, I'll let you see what the biggest transformation is." As soon as he finished speaking, countless soul stones were drowned by the lightning pool. Then, a black water dragon appeared. Chapter 3491. The water dragons formed by soul stones had different sizes. The largest was no more than 10 feet. Other than that, there were also differences in color. Green was the lowest, dark green was the highest, then blue, dark blue, black, and black crystal. The black dragon that appeared before everyone's eyes was like a black crystal dragon. Its entire body shone with a black light. This had undoubtedly reached the highest level in everyone's knowledge, causing a commotion. It had been a long time since such a high level had appeared. The black crystal dragon soared into the sky and revolved around Lei Jinghongyan's body. A loud dragon roar resounded in the surroundings. "Kid, do you see that? This is the real opportunity!" Lei Jinghongyan's cold and arrogant voice sounded. Zichen was indeed shocked. The other party was indeed a 3-star Saint Talisman Master. Now that he had devoured this black crystal dragon, he believed that the other party would easily break through. As expected, Lei Jinghongyan's soul had strengthened a lot after advancing to 4-star. Hence, he looked at Zichen and said proudly, "Kid, are you scared silly?" Zichen came back to his senses. At this moment, everyone's attention fell on him. He was ranked the highest, but unfortunately, the soul stones on him were too low level. Zichen took out the soul stones on him. They were all obtained from killing 2-star talisman beasts. The number was increasing. 10, 20, 30, 40. When the crowd in the distance saw this scene, their mocking expressions, which were originally waiting to watch a good show, gradually changed. Although the soul stones Zichen took out were not of high quality, the number was not small. It was obviously much more than the other 2-star talisman beasts. Moreover, looking at Zichen's actions, it was obvious that he had more on him. 50, 60, 70. The 3-star Saint Talisman Masters who were previously 2-star talisman beasts were shocked. 80, 90, and the number was still increasing. In the end, the number stopped at 148. Everyone was shocked. Even some 3-star talisman masters' faces changed. The number of enemies killed was far more than everyone else. "What's the use of killing more?" Judas said disdainfully. "It's still the lowest level soul stone. It's far from a high-grade soul stone." The soul stones transformed from 2-star talisman beasts were called low-grade, while 3-star ones were high-grade. Lei Jinghongyan sneered and said, "You're only SOSO." Zichen ignored the other party. If he was at the 3-star level, or if he could meet a 3-star talisman beast, the number of enemies he killed would definitely be able to crush the other party. Unfortunately, he was only a 2-star at that time. This was the truth. However, at this moment, another soul stone appeared in Zichen's hand. Unlike the previous low-grade and high-grade soul stones, this one was emitting a golden glow. Everyone was stunned when they saw the golden soul stone. They had never seen or heard of it before. Brat, what's the use of a broken stone? Could it be that you want to surpass us? Zhu Dao's expression was still disdainful. Lei Jinghongyan snorted. You're just a clown on your deathbed. Zichen had obtained this golden soul stone when he had passed the test to advance to 2 stars. Now that he was about to leave, he naturally had to use it. He put down the golden soul stone. Light fell from the sky. Beneath Zichen's feet, the pool of lightning surged upwards, drowning all of the soul stones. All of the soul stones were turned into soul power, and a water dragon appeared. The water dragon was cyan in color. Seeing this, Zhu De began to mock him. The disdain in Lei Jinghongyan's eyes grew stronger. The cyan water dragon soared into the sky, its color gradually darkening, turning into a dark cyan. The mocking was still there. The dark cyan water dragon began to dance around Zichen. In the blink of an eye, the dark cyan turned into a light blue color, and the mocking voices became softer. After all, their 3-star soul stones were only blue. At this moment, the color of the water dragon was still changing, from light blue to dark blue. All of the mocking voices disappeared, including Zhu De, who laughed the loudest. Even as a 3-star soul stone, he had not reached this level. However, he was still unconvinced. He sneered. What's wrong with this? Big Brother Hong Yan is still black. However, as soon as his voice fell, the dark blue water dragon shook its body and turned completely black. It was actually black. Everyone widened their eyes, feeling extremely incredulous. The soul stones Zichen took out were the lowest grade. Even if there were a lot of them, it was not enough to advance to black. Lei Jinghongyan's face gradually became ugly. The other party was at the same level as him. He felt that it was a shame. Unexpectedly, the black dragon let out a dragon roar, and the light on the surface of its body became deeper. It turned into a crystal black dragon. It was exactly the same as Lei Jinghongyan's. How is this possible? You're cheating! Lei Jinghongyan could no longer stay calm and shouted. The others could not believe their eyes. Zichen only took out 100 low-grade soul stones. How could he reach this level? Even if the first position had a bonus, it should not be so absurd, right? Zichen was also surprised by this level. Moreover, he was very satisfied. A loud dragon roar resounded, deafening. The black crystal-like water dragon did not directly enter Zichen's sea of consciousness. Instead, it soared into the sky. The next moment, a golden light was released, illuminating the surroundings. The black dragon had turned into a golden dragon. In an instant, an even more powerful soul energy was released from the golden dragon. The moment they saw the golden dragon, everyone was stunned. This was completely beyond common sense. A black dragon was the limit. There had never been a golden dragon in history. What was going on? Was this cheating? Just as everyone was shocked, the golden dragon fell from the sky and entered Zichen's sea of consciousness. A complete golden dragon entered the sea of consciousness, and was then swallowed by the black vortex. After being refined, the pure energy filled Zichen's soul. Zichen's soul energy was rapidly increasing. He could clearly feel that his soul energy was rapidly improving, and every time it increased, it would consume a huge amount of soul energy. Fortunately, the soul energy contained in the golden dragon was extraordinary. Buzz! Zichen's soul began to tremble, and there was another qualitative change. It was from 3 stars to 4 stars. At this time, the golden dragon's energy was almost depleted. After completely stabilizing the 4-star soul energy, it disappeared. The surroundings were silent. Everyone looked at Zichen, their eyes full of shock. This was a completely unbelievable scene. How could he condense a golden dragon with a pile of low-grade soul stones? Could it be the golden soul stone from before? Some people thought to themselves. No one laughed at Zichen anymore. because he deserved to be the first person. The old man stood in the air, looking at this scene indifferently. He was not surprised. Zichen was the only one taking the test because he was the only one qualified to take the test. Buzz! At this time, ripples appeared in the mirror-like sky, and crystals appeared. Chapter 3492. The soul-gathering crystal was the main purpose of everyone here, and only a few people could get it. There were only 9 soul-gathering crystals falling from the sky. Except for Zichen, the other 9 people all got one. After receiving the soul-amassing crystal, everyone's face was filled with excitement. Although it was only a low-grade soul-gathering crystal, they were satisfied. The soul-gathering crystal was too valuable. Among the 9 people, except for Lei Jinghongyan, no one else had one. Of course, Zichen also had one, which he won from Lei Jinghongya. From this point, one could see the foundation of the Lei Jing family. All 9 people got a soul-gathering crystal, except for Zichen. Zhu De sneered. "It seems that you have used up your good luck," Lei Jinghongyan said coldly. "Luck can't decide everything." Zichen still ignored him, but looked up at the sky. There were ripples surging out again, and then another crystal fell from the sky. This crystal was the size of a palm, and it emitted a brighter light. When it appeared, the surrounding soul power gathered toward the crystal. It had its own devouring vortex, and it fell down. "This is..." Seeing this, everyone opened their eyes wide, and their faces were full of disbelief. The sarcasm on Zhu Da's face disappeared, and he was stunned. Lei Jinghongyan's face became gloomy, and his eyes were burning with passion. It was a middle-grade soul-gathering crystal. This kind of thing was extremely rare even in the Lei Jing family. And the current master of the Talisman Palace only had one middle-grade soul-gathering crystal. "It's a middle-grade soul-gathering crystal! Gosh, you can get a middle-grade soul-gathering crystal in the Talisman Forest! This is the first time I've seen it!" the people behind exclaimed. They were shocked, and at the same time, envious. Many people's eyes flickered with greed. If it were not for the rule that no one could rob here, they would all rush up. Renjung laughed. He should be the only one here who felt happy for Zichen from the bottom of his heart. The middle-grade soul-gathering crystal fell and sank into his glabella. There was no need to refine the medial-grade soul-amassing crystal. The medial-grade soul-amassing crystal that entered Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness was automatically refined. Then, the low-grade soul-gathering crystal was forcefully pushed away. Zichen used his spiritual sense to remove the ownership of the low-grade soul-amassing crystal, and it appeared in Zichen's hand. When the people outside saw this scene, their eyes lit up again. Obviously, since Zichen had the mid-grade soul-amassing crystal, the low-grade ones were completely useless. Zichen turned to look at the crowd and immediately sensed their intentions. He waved the soul-amassing crystal in his hand and said, "Everyone, I have a world called Tianwu. When the time comes, I will put this crystal on sale there. If you are interested, you can go there and buy it." When the crowd heard this, they nodded one after another. Many of them revealed smiles on their faces. The soul-amassing crystal was precious not only because of its high value, but also because it was extremely rare. One had to know that Saint Talisman Masters could draw talismans, and the price was extremely high. Each of them was extremely wealthy, and it wasn't that they couldn't afford the soul-gathering crystal, but that they simply didn't have it. Just like the Holy Thunder Demon Bone, some people wanted to use resources to buy it, but they couldn't find a way to do so. Compared to the face of the Lei Jing family, Zichen's soul-amassing crystal was a real thing. Naturally, everyone was willing to be on good terms with him. Just when Zichen thought that this trial was over, he saw another object fall from the sky. This was a golden token, and it flew towards Zichen. Zichen subconsciously caught it. At this moment, the old voice that he heard before sounded again. "When you reach the 6-star level, you can activate the Holy Thunder Golden Token and accept the trial. Once you successfully complete the trial, you may be able to obtain the second part of the Dark Ghost Soul Devouring technique." Hearing this voice, Zichen's expression changed, and his eyes were filled with ecstasy. He didn't expect that there would be a second part of the dark ghost soul-devouring technique so soon. No one knew what the golden token was, but it was definitely something good. This could be seen from Zichen's changing expression. Unfortunately, they didn't have time to ask. The trip to the Talisman Forest was over. From the beginning to the end, the old man didn't appear. This was because he only paid attention to Zichen. The others weren't even qualified to be looked at by him. In the space that Fu Lao guarded, it was quiet, but no one could remain calm. At this moment, only 2 people had not returned. One was Zichen, and the other was Ren Jing. Everyone stared at Zichen, and their eyes flashed with killing intent. Especially Qianli. His great opportunity to break through was ruined by Zichen just like that. He had already made up his mind that after this incident, he would not let him go. A soul fluctuation appeared, and Fu Lao opened his eyes. He knew that the 2 should be back after the trial in the Talisman Forest was over. As expected, Zichen and Renjing opened their eyes one after another. Zichen, you're courting death! At this moment, Qianli's eyes flashed with killing intent. The others also stood up and stared coldly at Zichen. Buzz! Zichen's soul aura surged like a storm and swept across the surroundings. As the spirit soul tempest passed by, everyone present felt a terrifying pressure land on their bodies. Those 2 stars were even worse off as they collapsed onto the ground one after another. The soul aura of a 4-star sacred talisman master. Coupled with the dark ghost devour soul technique, Zichen's soul was exceptionally powerful and terrifying. In an instant, everyone's expression changed drastically. The killing intent in their eyes turned into horror. 4-star, he's actually a 4-star! Sensing Zichen's soul aura, Fu Lao was extremely agitated. Unlike the others, their true cultivation level was above 6-star. However, Zichen was only a 4-star sacred spirit, but his sacred talisman master cultivation level had also reached this level. How amazing was this? This was a true sacred talisman master. What are you trying to do? Releasing his soul aura, Zichen looked coldly at everyone. Zichen, you sneaked an attack on us and stole our resources, someone said angrily. You only have such cultivation level because you sneaked an attack on your own people. Don't you feel guilty? Guilty? Zichen said disdainfully. Then see if I should feel guilty or not. A ray of light condensed from Zichen's hand and turned into a memory crystal ball. Then, the scene inside appeared. Zichen shouted at his own people and walked forward, saying that he would help everyone for free. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect Zichen to have such a trick up his sleeve. In an instant, everyone's expression became very ugly. Then, there was the battle. It was a complete mess. Zichen relied on his extreme speed to send everyone away under the indiscriminate attacks of the sacred talisman. Then, there was the conversation between him and Qianli, as well as the battle. Sneak attack? It did not exist. After the 9 extremes talisman array appeared, Qianli did not have the ability to resist at all. Chapter 3493. The scene ended and the surroundings were silent. No one spoke again. Back then, they were bent on killing Zichen and did not hold back at all. Hence, Zichen killed them all instead. Sneak attack? Naturally, it did not exist. Are we on the same side or not? Zichen looked at everyone. If we are on the same side, why do you want to kill me? Didn't I say that I would help you for free? Zichen, don't try to quibble. You obviously wanted to snatch the resources, that's why you deliberately said that. Otherwise, why would you use the memory crystal? Qianli snorted, his eyes cold. Zichen smiled faintly and said, Of course I'm afraid that you will confuse right and wrong. Look, the truth is right in front of you, yet you still have excuses to deny it. Let me ask you, what if this truth did not exist? Would you say that I ambushed you all, how shameless I am, and how righteous you all are, considering the big picture? Everyone was silent. Because when they came back, that was indeed what they said. Each and every one of them was filled with righteous indignation. Zichen looked at the group and said, "Actually, I think that this should be a good thing for you all." Everyone stared at Zichen, their eyes spitting fire. "Snatching our things is a good thing for us? The root cause of this matter does not lie with me. Let me ask you, even if I did not appear, do you think that you would have been able to obtain the soul energy in the end?" "Zichen, what do you mean?" Qianli shouted angrily. Zichen smiled faintly and said, "You know very well what I mean. Perhaps you really would have shared a portion of the soul energy with everyone." Then Zichen looked back at the group. "But I appeared, and Qianli insisted that you all kill me. But when I counterattacked, what did he do? Everyone, if Qianli had attacked back then, I believe that at least half of you would have been able to survive. But he did not. He watched you all die, or rather, patiently waited for you all to die. Then, he wanted to kill me and snatch the last of the resources. When he came back, he could have been a hero. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. He was too weak and was easily annihilated by my level 9 talisman formation. You all obeyed this fellow's every word, but he only cared about harming others. This time, because of this matter, you all have completely seen through him. Speaking of which, even if you don't thank me, you should feel lucky that you recognize someone. Zichen, you're courting death." Hearing Zichen's words, Qianli's eyes were overflowing with murderous intent. This was not just slander, but also a form of alienation. The blow to him was too great. "Courting death? You think you can do that?" Zichen looked at him with disdain and said indifferently, "Do you know who I hate the most in my life? They hated people like you the most. They only followed you because they trusted you and listened to your orders. In the end, you wanted them to die. Speaking of which, this was only a trial. Even if they died, their souls could still return. But what if you were in the outside world? For some resources, you would join forces with others and decisively give up their lives. Now you actually have the cheek to join forces with everyone and once again use their trust in you to directly crusade against me. Where's your conscience?" Qianli pointed at Zichen and was trembling with rage. You despicable kid!" In next to no time, Qianli noticed that something was wrong. Because those fellows that originally hated Zichen had actually turned their heads to look at him with extremely cold and indifferent gazes. He cried out in his heart and hurriedly said, "Everyone, don't listen to this fellow's nonsense. He seized our things. Otherwise, he wouldn't be at such a level. Now, we should join forces and crusade against Zichen." No one replied, and the gazes of everyone became even colder. "Qianli, why didn't you stop Zichen at that time?" Renjing, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. This was the crux of the problem. The others stared at Qianli and waited for his answer. "Because there were many 3-star talisman beasts besieging me. Where could I find the time? Look, when I went all out to kill the 3-star talisman beasts and was about to help everyone, they were already gone." Qianli explained. Renjing said, "So when Zichen killed them, it just happened to be when you killed the 3-star talisman beasts?" Qianli said angrily. "Renjing, you're changing the concept," Zichen said disappointedly. "Qianli, it's fine if one makes a mistake. But if you don't admit your mistake and don't change it, instead, you think you're right. This is simply incurable. Fu Lao, I think we should leave," Zichen said in the end. "There's simply nothing to say to such a despicable person." Fu Lao nodded. His eyes that looked at Zichen were filled with admiration and even gratitude. He waved his hand and an exit appeared in front of them. Everyone walked out one after another. At the same time, the talisman hall that had always been sealed was officially opened. The experts guarding outside the talisman hall quietly left. Fu Lao looked at everyone and said, "Everyone, take a break for 2 days. After 2 days, those who have advanced can come to the talisman hall for the assessment." Everyone bowed to Fu Lao and left one by one. Qianli stared at Zichen with eyes that looked like they were about to spit fire. He was a 6-star Holy Spirit, and was only 1 step away from 7-star. If he had successfully advanced to a 4-star Holy Talisman Master, everything would have gone smoothly because of his powerful soul. Unfortunately, all of this had been ruined by Zichen. Everyone left, except for Zichen and Renjing. Fu Lao looked at Zichen and said, Zichen, I have to thank you this time. Thank me? Zichen was stunned and didn't understand what was going on. Fu Lao smiled bitterly and said, If it wasn't for you, Qianli might have left with all the holy talisman masters after this trial ended. Leave? Where to? Zichen asked in surprise. The Leijing family, Fu Lao said. I've received news that the Leijing family has a very close relationship with Qianli. It's very likely that they want to poach all the holy talisman masters from the Talisman Hall. Zichen asked in confusion. This is the Talisman Hall, the core of the Holy Thunder clan. What right does the Leijing family have to challenge the Talisman Hall? The Talisman Hall belongs to everyone, but the Holy Thunder clan belongs to itself. I'm sure you can figure out the reason behind this. Zichen nodded. This reminded him of the Wuji sect. After they were trapped in the Lightning Divine Hall, the huge Wuji sect was gradually divided. In the end, the Wuji sect disappeared and a few powerful clans appeared in the Holy Land. Fu Lao sighed and said, Actually, the Talisman Hall should change the rules. After all, it's different now. Unfortunately, the Hall Master clearly said that the rules can't be changed. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Come and test your level. Chapter 3494. Zichen was also very curious about his own cultivation level. He walked into the examination room where the 4th grade holy pen and talisman paper were placed. Zichen looked around and was puzzled to find that there was no holy ink. Try using soul control to replace the ink with energy, said Fu Lao, who was standing beside him. At this moment, Renjing was already standing in front of another table. He glanced at Zichen and said, The energy of a 4-star sacred talisman master is already enough to replace the holy ink. You can try it slowly. There's no need to rush. Fu Lao also said, That's right. This isn't an official examination. Feel free to use the talisman paper. Zichen just noticed that there was a stack of talismans in front of him. Just as he was about to pick up the brush, there was an energy fluctuation beside him. He saw a 4th grade talisman paper shatter, and energy surged out. As soon as the vibrating energy left the table, it encountered a barrier and disappeared. This was Renjing's first attempt, and it ended in failure. Don't worry, it won't disturb you, said Fu Lao again. He was looking forward to Zichen's performance. Zichen nodded and adjusted his breathing to calm himself down. Then, he held the 4th grade holy pen in his hand and urged the energy and abdomen to gather in the holy pen. The holy pen started to glow. Lightning flickered at the tip of the pen like a sharp blade. Although the 4th grade talisman paper itself was very tough, it was still much weaker than the energy surging out of the pen tip. If he didn't control his strength well, it would be easy to fail. This was a test of his soul. Zichen's huge soul instantly shrouded down and carefully controlled the power at the tip of the holy pen. At the same time, Zichen started to draw the talisman. Naturally, it was the Holy Thunder talisman that he was most familiar with. Carefully, a Holy Thunder talisman was completed. Buzz! Light patterns surged out, but there were only 3. It was obviously a 3-star Holy Thunder talisman. Using a 4-star material to draw a 3-star talisman was undoubtedly a failure. Not bad! Fu Lao nodded and praised. This can be considered a success. At the same time, Renjing's second talisman paper shattered. Compared to him, Zichen could barely be considered a success. Then, Zichen drew a second one. It was still a 3-star painting, but after these 2 attempts, he was much more confident. As the 3rd Holy Thunder talisman was completed, 4 light patterns surged out from it. 4-star. At this point, Zichen had completely advanced. Amazing! Truly amazing! Fu Lao exclaimed in admiration. At this point he was certain that Zichen was a saint symbol master. A 4-star Holy Spirit was also a 4-star Sacred Talisman Master. This was the strongest state of a Sacred Talisman Master. A long time ago, This kind of existence was very common, but now, the Holy Thunder clan had never produced such a sacred symbol master. Fu Lao, I've passed, right? Zichen turned around and asked. Chi. Before old Fu could reply, Renjing wasted another 4th grade Saint Talisman parchment. Then, he smiled and shook his head. It seems that this is the disadvantage of having a weak soul. I need to take it step by step. I can't rush it for now. He also knew the difference between him and Zichen, so he wasn't jealous at all. You've officially advanced to 4-star. I'll immediately give you the rewards you deserve as a 4-star Sacred Talisman Master, Fu Lao said excitedly. You'll definitely like these rewards. Wait here. I'll personally arrange them for you. Fu Lao turned around and left excitedly. Congratulations. I've never seen Fu Lao so excited before. Renjing came to Zichen's side and said, Even if everyone is taken away by Qianli this time, as long as you stay in the Talisman Hall, I believe Fu Lao will still be happy. You alone are comparable to many sacred talisman masters. You flatter me. How can I compare to so many sacred talisman masters? You don't plan to try? Zichen asked with a smile. Renjing shook his head again. He looked at Zichen with resentment. I'm a genius among the sacred talisman masters after all. However, I only know what a genius is after seeing you. I won't try anymore. I'll slowly try at home. Speaking of which, even if I succeed today, I'll lose my confidence after seeing your achievements. Zichen smiled. It was obvious that Renjing was just talking. He was really good to him, and was also someone he could befriend. Big brother Renjing, I wonder if the Talisman Hall will give out sacred talismans and sacred brushes after I advance to 4-star? Zichen asked a most important question. Renjing looked at Zichen from head to toe with a strange gaze. Zichen was stunned and said, Why? Is there a problem? Won't a sacred talisman master feel stupid for asking this question? Renjing found it funny. Renjing's words made Zichen stunned again. Stupid? Why? Those things are too valuable. It's naturally better to save as much as possible. A sacred talisman master will complain about being poor? Renjing was amused and asked, How long have you been a sacred talisman master? Zichen thought for a while and said, About a year. This time, Renjing couldn't laugh. In just a year, he had advanced from 1-star to 4-star. This speed was simply too fast. He seemed a little depressed. Fu Lao came with the robe that represented a 4-star sacred talisman master. It was equivalent to a 4-star battle armor. To Zichen, it was definitely a good thing. Then there was the 4-grade sacred talisman paper and sacred brush. They were all given away for free. This made Zichen very excited. Renjing looked at Zichen's expression and shook his head speechlessly. This is the lowest grade among the 4-grade sacred talismans. Zichen smiled and said, It's better than nothing. As long as it was cheap and free, it was naturally a good thing. As for whether it was good or bad, Zichen didn't care. Then, Zichen thought of a very important question and said, Fu Lao, I wonder if the Talisman Hall still has the previous transaction? What kind? Take the sacred talisman paper first, then return the sacred thunder talisman directly. Of course, how many do you want? Take 200 first. Zichen thought for a while and said, Okay, when the time comes, just give us 24-star sacred thunder talismans directly. Fu Lao said. Why 20? Zichen was a little confused. Didn't it used to be 40? Fu Lao glanced at Renjing. The latter was a little depressed. Zichen suddenly understood. It was because of the success rate. When a 4-star sacred talisman master reaches 4-star, the number of sacred talisman arts you can use will obviously increase. These are your rewards. Next, you can go to the Sacred Talisman Pavilion and choose 2 4-star Sacred Talisman arts. Fu Lao said again. I can only choose 2? Zichen was a little disappointed. Fu Lao smiled and said, If you want them, you have to accumulate more contribution points. With your current 4-star Sacred Talisman Master rank, the speed of accumulating contribution points is very fast. Chapter 3495. Since Rinjing didn't succeed in writing the 4-star Holy Thunder Talisman, he naturally didn't advance and wouldn't receive any rewards. He decided to go back and have a good rest. He was originally in a good mood after returning victorious, but after comparing himself to Zichen, he felt rather depressed. Naturally, he rejected Zichen's invitation to look at the Holy Talisman arts with him. Who knew when the time came, it would give him another invisible shock, causing him to feel even more depressed. Fu Lao brought Zichen to look for the Holy Talisman arts. The Talisman Hall represented a faction and wasn't a special hall. Naturally, there was a special place to store the Holy Talisman arts. As Zichen moved forward, his strong soul clearly sensed a powerful existence hiding nearby. This was definitely the safest place in the Holy Thunder Clan. There was no need to worry about thieves coming. The two of them arrived in front of a hall. There was no one guarding it. Fu Lao walked forward and waved his hand. A 4-star Holy Talisman appeared and flew forward. The Holy Talisman imprinted on the hall door and released a bright light. Countless holy runes appeared on the hall door. The holy runes lit up one by one and connected. Then, like a tide, they spread to the sides. Crack! The door of the palace slowly opened, and an extremely powerful soul fluctuation surged out from within. Fu Lao looked at Zichen and said, "Go, choose the Holy Talisman arts that are suitable for you." Zichen nodded and walked in. This was a huge space with thousands of light dots floating above. They were like countless shining Xingqian. These were all Holy Talisman arts. Zichen was dazzled by them. He tried to extend his soul to sense the Holy Talisman arts. Buzz! It was like a stone falling into a calm lake, instantly causing countless ripples. The flickering Xingqian seemed to have come alive at this moment. Light patterns surged out. 1, 2, 3. The light patterns divided the realms very well. Zichen could only see Holy Talisman arts below 3-star. As for the 4-star Holy Talisman arts, they hadn't appeared yet. Zichen's gaze landed on a Xingqian that had yet to activate its light inscriptions. He was a little puzzled. His soul extended forward like an agile snake. Just as his soul was about to land on it, the Xingqian star began to tremble like a blazing sun. It was incomparably red, and waves of energy spread out in all directions, directly shaking Zichen's soul away. Shwa! In the next moment, this raging flame Xingqian flew into the distance like a bolt of lightning, its speed extremely fast. Looking at the 4 light wheels around the sun, Zichen knew that this was the 4-star sacred talisman technique. However, he did not expect that the other party would actually resist. If you want to obtain the 4-star sacred talisman technique, it will depend on your ability. Fu Lao's voice suddenly sounded. Once you've chosen a suitable holy talisman art, you can make your move. Next, Zichen's spiritual thoughts began to touch the other Xingqians and awaken the various 4-star sacred talisman arts. Some turned into long swords and danced in the air. Some were like blades cutting through the air. There were dozens of 4-star sacred talisman arts, all of which were flying at high speed and did not stop after being activated. Being able to reach the 4-star sacred talisman art in itself indicated that it was extraordinary. Therefore, Zichen needed to choose one from among them. The sword and blade were all good. Zichen was a little tempted. At this moment, he saw a 4-star sacred talisman art. There was no sign of it being activated, and it was just dancing in the air. He was a little surprised. After all the 4-star sacred talisman arts were activated, there would be an extraordinary sign. Why did this 4-star sacred talisman art not have any? Zichen's soul stretched out, wanting to grab the other party and observe carefully. 1. Just as his soul approached, a powerful force came, directly shaking Zichen's soul back. Zichen was a little surprised. He released his soul even more violently. The wave of energy also became stronger. It was like layers of ripples, shaking off Zichen's soul seal time and time again. I don't believe it! The repeated failures had stimulated Zichen's courage. His soul quickly appeared, turning into a black energy hand and grabbing at the 4-star sacred talisman art. The surrounding space was completely sealed. The 4-star sacred talisman art's space of movement was getting smaller and smaller. Just as the 4-star sacred talisman art was about to be grabbed by the 4-star sacred talisman art, an arm suddenly appeared. The arm clenched into a fist and punched Zichen's 4-star sacred talisman art. The sky shook. A ripple spread out in all directions. Countless rays of light penetrated the 4-star sacred talisman art, shooting out in all directions like sharp swords. The 4-star sacred talisman art fled as the 4-star sacred talisman art dispersed. Zichen's face turned pale. He was actually injured. His face gradually turned ugly. He was actually injured by the sacred talisman art. It was simply unimaginable. Originally, he only wanted to sense it from a close distance and had not made a decision. But now, he was completely determined. This was it. 1. A vortex appeared around him. The vortex spun at high speed, like a soul storm. Rumble! A deafening sound was heard. Go! As soon as he finished speaking, a small tornado flew out from the soul storm, constantly extending into the sky. Wherever it passed, a powerful soul aura shook, shaking off the sacred talisman art. Zichen's soul was like a storm dragon. While shaking off the sacred talisman art, it went straight for the target. The target fled at high speed, but its speed was not as fast as the storm dragon. The distance between the two was closing. 1. On the 4-star sacred talisman art, the arm from before appeared again. It clenched into a fist and punched at the storm dragon. The void shook again, and the storm dragon paused for a moment. However, before the second punch landed, the storm dragon instantly moved forward and swallowed the arm along with the sacred talisman art. Then, the storm dragon returned. Unexpectedly, just as Zichen's storm dragon returned, a black light flew from another direction. It was like a black lightning bolt, directly entering the storm dragon. The storm dragon had completely returned, and Zichen had 2 more sacred talisman arts in his hands. The first one was what he insisted on looking for, while the second one was black. It came to him on its own. Just as Zichen was incomparably stunned, a light descended from the sky and landed on Zichen's body. Then, Zichen's body was forcibly taken away. Standing outside the hall, Zichen was completely stunned. How could it be so fast? Fu Lao looked at him in surprise. What did you choose? Zichen took out the 2 sacred talisman arts and shook his head. I don't know. I didn't have time to check one, and the other one came by itself. Oh? Old Fu stepped forward and asked curiously. It's coming on its own. Let me see what kind of technique it is. Zichen was about to hand the black sacred talisman art to Fu Lao. Unexpectedly, the black sacred talisman art turned into a light and entered Zichen's forehead. Fu Lao was stunned. Zichen, on the other hand, was extremely shocked. At this moment, a sacred talisman art appeared in his mind. Chapter 3496. The name of the technique surprised Zichen. There were only 2 words, ghost spirit. There was no other description, including its level. Fu Lao's expression changed. He picked up the other holy talisman technique beside Zichen and glanced at it. So it's this. Looks like your luck is not bad. Zichen came back to his senses and asked, What's this? Heavenly Saint Arm. A holy talisman technique that can be used to attack and also to support oneself. Although it's only a 4-star holy talisman technique, it's not weaker than some 5-star holy talisman techniques. Fu Lao said. Just this point alone is enough for you. Zichen took the holy talisman technique with satisfaction and said, The one that disappeared earlier is called Ghost Spirit. I don't know what level it is. Ghost Spirit? Fu Lao was stunned. There's such a holy talisman technique? Obviously, he didn't know either. Zichen nodded. The holy talisman technique's name was Ghost Spirit. Since that's the case, it proves that you and I are fated. You have to practice more in the future. Fu Lao encouraged Zichen again before sending Zichen off. Looking at Zichen's back as he left, Fu Lao muttered, "Ghost spirit? Why haven't I heard of it before?" After leaving the Talisman Palace, Zichen went to look for Grace. When she saw Zichen, she was very surprised. When she saw the holy talisman robe on Zichen, she was even more surprised. "You've already advanced to 4-star?" Zichen smiled. "I just advanced. Do you have time? Let me treat you to something? A 4-star holy talisman master is treating me. Even if I don't have it, I have to say yes," Grace said with a smile. However, she quickly stopped smiling. Then, an exquisite jade box appeared in her hand. She looked at Zichen and said, "Are you serious?" Zichen looked at her in confusion. Wasn't this the gift he gave Grace when they first entered the Talisman Forest? Seeing Zichen stunned, Grace asked, "Do you know what's inside?" It was Zichen who had put it there, so of course he knew. However, he still didn't understand what Grace meant. "Don't you know the value of this thing?" Grace asked again. Zichen suddenly understood and said with a smile, "We are friends. You have helped me so much. What's wrong with giving you a small gift?" "How is this a small gift? Even if I serve you for thousands of years, I won't be able to obtain it," Grace said excitedly. The reason why she cared so much was because there was a thunder leaf in it. It was a leaf that fell from the tree of the lightning ancestor. As long as he had one, he could go to the tree of the lightning ancestor to comprehend it. Many of the Holy Thunder clans were reluctant to use such a thing. Who would give such a thing away? However, Zichen didn't care at all. "I wanted to give you a surprise, but I didn't expect it to turn into a scare. But since I've already given it to you, it's fine as long as you don't lose it. I won't take it back. Also, I'm really hungry." Looking at Zichen, who was almost shameless, Grace felt a warm current in her heart. Only then did she calmly accept this precious gift. "In that case, I'll treat you," she said. "Okay, it's rare to get a bargain. I want to eat something good. Up to you." After eating, Zichen returned to the Tianwu world. Every time he came back, there would be new changes, especially the spiritual power of heaven and earth. He went to find Jolina and told her that no one had come to cause trouble during this period of time. Zichen then returned to his room. Next, he needed to draw talismans. Not only could he exchange them for resources, but he could also increase his proficiency to prepare for drawing other 4-star holy talismans. One after another, the 4th-grade Holy Thunder talismans were successfully drawn. A tyrannical fluctuation spread out from the room. In one day, Zichen successfully drew 50 talismans. This efficiency and speed could be said to be terrifying. Zichen didn't go out again. 4 days later, all the holy talismans had turned into finished Holy Thunder talismans. After giving these 4-star Holy Thunder talismans to Jolina and instructing the Talisman Hall, and Wanhee to split them equally, Zichen left the room and began to patrol the city. An hour later, Zichen saw 3 people and frowned slightly. It was Li's Hong-Fang, the one he had beaten up last time. He didn't expect this guy to come to this city again. Beside him, the 2 beautiful and powerful maids were still following him. The 2 of them also noticed Zichen, and immediately protected Li's Hong-Fang behind them. Then, the 2 women saw Zichen's Holy Talisman Master Battle Robe and their expressions changed. "You actually successfully advanced?" Li's Hong-Fang behind them also noticed this, and cried out involuntarily. It had been a few days since everyone returned. Li's Hong-Fang naturally knew what had happened in the Talisman Forest. However, Li's Hong-Yen, who had also advanced to 4-star, had yet to draw a 4-star Holy Talisman. But Zichen was actually wearing a Holy Talisman battle robe. Just from this point alone, he was much more powerful than Li's Hong-Yen. Zichen narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Li's Hong-Fang. "Why are you here?" Sensing the change in Zichen's tone, Li's Hong-Fang subconsciously took a step back. He had long been traumatized by Zichen. Although this guy didn't dare to kill him last time, he had left him with a huge psychological trauma. What are you doing? We're here legally, said a maid beside Li's Heng Hong Fang. That's right, I'm now a resident of this city. I have a residence in this city. I can walk freely here and go wherever I want. Li's Heng Hong Fang also mustered up his courage and said. Zichen was still looking at him. If you don't believe me, you can ask. Why are you looking at us? Humph, you're so boring. Li's Heng Hong Fang turned around and walked away. Clearly, standing in front of Zichen was too much for him to bear. Looking at the three of them leaving, Zichen frowned slightly. This guy had repeatedly come here to cause trouble. After being taught a lesson, not only did he not repent, he even came here again. He even bought a residence, clearly intending to stay here for a long time. Although Zichen was very confident in his own world, this place couldn't be better than Lei Zheng's family. What was the other party's motive? After that, Zichen went to find Jolina and asked about this matter. She told him that Li's Heng Hong Fang had bought a treehouse at an irresistible price, and he hadn't continued to cause trouble during this period. Zichen nodded. Since that guy was well behaved, he would let him continue to stay here. Half a day later, the holy talisman that Zichen had exchanged for arrived. Among them, the talisman hall gave him 800 blank pieces. Grace exchanged the previous 100 pieces for 2,300 4-star holy talisman papers from Wan He. With so many blank pieces of holy talisman papers, Zichen began to write the other 4-star holy talismans. In order to be safe, he still completed 200 holy thunder talismans first so that he could exchange them later. Currently, Zichen had mastered 3 4-star holy talisman techniques. Furious Thunder Roar. Heavenly Power Saint Arm Ghost Spirit. The former was given to him by the Lei Xing family. The reason why they gave him such a high-level holy talisman technique was obviously not out of good intentions. Under normal circumstances, Zichen would need at least 10,000 years to reach the level of a 4-star holy talisman master. However, they would never have thought that Zichen would actually reach 4 stars in such a short period of time. Chapter 3497. The 3 types of Saint Talisman arts had to be differentiated. Zichen looked at the Furious Thunder Roar first, and realized that it was very complicated. There were 2 extremes in this technique. One was very simple and did not match the level of a 4-star Saint Talisman. However, the possibility of this was not high. The Lei Xing family could have given him a low-level talisman. There was no need to give him a 4-star one. The other extreme was very difficult. It was so difficult that it was impossible to comprehend it. It was the same as not having it. With Zichen's current level of attainment, he could feel the difficulty of the Furious Thunder Roar at first glance. There were too many patterns in it. It was very complicated. He did not hesitate and chose to give up. Next was the Heavenly Saint Arm. This Saint Talisman art had left a deep impression on him. Compared to the Furious Thunder Roar, it was much easier. Zichen started to comprehend it. Then, he slowly started to draw. Light surged at the tip of the brush. Pure energy landed on the talisman paper. Without the saint ink, Zichen had saved a lot of money. Chi! The talisman paper broke. There was a wave of energy that spread out. It created a powerful ripple that shook the entire treehouse. As expected, he failed again. Zichen was not disheartened. He put down the Saint Talisman brush and rubbed his forehead. He had used up too much energy. He had failed more than 20 times. The difficulty of a Saint Talisman master drawing talismans was gradually showing. Even he had failed more than 20 times. If it was someone else, they would have failed even more. Zichen went outside for a walk to calm himself down. During this time, the mid-grade soul-gathering crystal absorbed the soul energy in the surroundings to recover his soul. After his soul energy recovered, Zichen returned to the treehouse and continued to try to draw the Heavenly Saint Arm. Just like that, 3 days passed. After using up nearly 100 4-star Saint Talisman papers, Zichen finally succeeded in drawing a Heavenly Saint Arm. A ripple spread out. The Heavenly Saint Arm appeared on the Saint Talisman paper. There were 4 glowing patterns on it. He had succeeded. Zichen's face revealed a look of joy. When he was drawing the talisman, he gradually understood the heavenly saint arm. Once it was activated, a huge arm would appear. Its attack power was very strong. On the other hand, if one wanted to provide assistance, all one had to do was to place it on one's arm, and it would be able to unleash its greatest power. After succeeding once, the subsequent attempts were much easier. Zichen's success rate increased exponentially, and in the end, he had a 100% success rate. If this kind of saint talisman were to be sold, its price would definitely be much higher than the Holy Thunder talisman. However, Zichen had no plans to do so for the time being. Now that the Heavenly Power Saint Arm had been completed, Zichen started to try to comprehend the ghost spirit. This was a special saint talisman technique, and it was he who had run over to Zichen. The ghost spirit did not look complicated, but after trying it out, Zichen discovered that it was actually much more difficult than the Heavenly Energy Saint Arm. He kept trying and failing. Just as Zichen was feeling frustrated by the number of failures, Jolina's voice came from outside. "Come in." Zichen put down the holy talisman brush and heaved a sigh of relief. He then turned around and asked with a smile, "Why are you here today?" Jolina smiled bitterly. "I can't help it. I really can't stop them. Those people are not to be trifled with. Are they here to cause trouble again?" Zichen frowned. "No, they're all here for the soul-gathering crystal. They said they want to buy it." From Jolina's helpless expression, Zichen knew that many people had come. However, none of them were real Saint Talisman masters. They were probably managers or something like that. This was because if a real Saint Talisman master came, even if there was only one, Jolina would not be able to stop them. "How's the development of the Tianwu world?" Zichen asked. "The basic facilities have been completed. Next, we need to prepare how to attract more people, or something that will make people's eyes shine," Jolina said. "At the same time, I came here for another reason, which is to artificially control the direction of spirit power and create 1 or 2 extraordinary cities. This way, our world can be connected to the outside world in the shortest time possible, and at the same time, attract enough people." "That's not a problem." Zichen thought for a moment and said, "How about this? Go and tell them that the low-grade soul-gathering crystal will appear in an auction. When the time comes, we'll inform them in advance." Jolina nodded. "How many cities do you plan to develop first?" Zichen continued to ask. 3. Jolina obviously had a perfect plan before coming. She said, "Tianwu, Zisu, and Zixian. These 3 cities." The cities in the Tianwu world had long had their own names. Tianwu was the most central city, and it was also the city where Zichen currently lived. Zichen's spiritual thoughts moved. Through the rules of the Tianwu world, the energy from the Void Thunder Sea was being crazily absorbed and then converged into these 3 cities. At the same time, the energy from the Tianwu world also gathered in these 3 cities. In the blink of an eye, the energy of heaven and earth contained in these 3 cities was obviously different from that of other cities. At this moment, the people in these 3 cities all had surprised expressions on their faces. Li Hongfang walked out of his room. He looked at the abnormality around him and said, "It seems that this world is going to be open to the outside world." To be able to control the direction of the spiritual power so easily and not damage the world at all, this Zichen is really extraordinary," Vanilla said from the side. Li Hongfang shook his head and said, "No, it's the world. This world has a secret that belongs to him, and that's why it can be easily controlled." "But what exactly is this secret?" Li Hongfang hadn't found out yet. This was also the main reason why he came here. The reason why he was willing to abide by the rules here was also because of this. When Jolina walked out of Zichen's room, she was very satisfied with the changes in this city. Everything that followed would be left to her. She had already decided that after a year, the Tianwu world would be officially open to the outside world. During this period, there would be a huge auction. This auction would last for several months. The auction would start with the simplest things and involve all realms. During this period, If she wanted to attract more holy spirits, she would have to take out enough things that would attract them. After Jolene left, Zichen gave up on the ghost spirits and continued to write the Holy Thunder Talisman. He needed to exchange for more resources to add to his strength for the auction. As the number of holy talismans increased, Zichen's contribution in the Talisman Hall also increased by a lot. These contributions could be exchanged for many resources in the Talisman Hall, and these resources could also be taken out and sold in the Tianwu world. The core products of the Holy Thunder clan were naturally the best. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. Zichen had been working hard to strengthen the Tianwu world. During this period, there were no accidents. It seemed that everything had become quiet. It was just that the unknown martial heaven world was releasing one piece of information after another. Those information were all very rare things that were useful to all sorts of existences. That included holy spirits. Even some aristocratic families were incomparably shocked and moved after hearing about it. Chapter 3498. Zichen sat in the VIP room and looked at the auction below. Jolene was wearing a rainbow-colored dress. Her slender waist outlined her perfect and well-proportioned figure. She had the bloodline of the god race. She was beautiful, and her voice had a strange magic as she explained the auction items one by one. There were many people sitting below the stage, and there were many sacred spirits among them. While they were interested in the auction items, there were also many people who looked at Jolene passionately. In a short while, the atmosphere became heated. This time, even many core disciples have come. Your fame in the Tianwu world has become incomparably resounding. Grace, who was sitting next to Zichen, said with a smile. It's all thanks to your family's promotion. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so lively, Zichen said. That's just one aspect. In addition, the items you took out, not to mention the sacred spirits, even many aristocratic families are tempted, Grace said. This time, I heard that even the Leijing family secretly sent people over. Zichen wasn't surprised by this, because the items he took out this time were enough to attract people. In addition to the auction, many shops opened at the same time. These shops sold other things that were precious but not enough to be auctioned. It had to be said that the Tianwu continent had attracted too much popularity in a short period of time. A rare item like the sacred thunder demon bone would be secretly bought at a high price in the outer realm before it appeared. However, in the Tianwu world, there were many of these things. Some of them even appeared in sets. Other than the sacred thunder demon bone, there were all kinds of other high-grade resources. This time, Jolena's plan was very simple. Attract enough popularity, from the lowest level to the highest level of sacred spirits. On the streets of the city, there were many cultivators. Their realms weren't high, but wherever they passed, they would look at the shops on both sides of the street and exclaim. Not to mention the many resources in this world, just the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here was so rich that it amazed them. Right now, because this was the first time it was open to the outside world, there were no levels yet, so anyone could come. Once everything settled down, many low-level existences would not even have the qualifications to enter this place. Along the way, there were heated discussions everywhere. For example, if one lived here for 100 years, would they be able to break through to the next realm? At the same time, there were many core disciples here. One had to know that this kind of existence could not be seen normally. The auction was divided into several stages according to the value of the resources. Among them, the various sets of holy lightning demon bones took up a large proportion. Time was limited every day, so the auction lasted for a whole month. On the last day of the auction, Steward Mo arrived. He was one of the truly important figures in the Sacred Thunder tribe. His status was even higher than that of many of the leaders of the aristocratic families. After he arrived at the auction house, it naturally caused quite a commotion. Zichen invited Butler Missouri to the VIP lounge. He was very surprised to see the old man. Steward Mo smiled and said, "Since you are not here, I am here to see if everything is going well." Zichen hurriedly nodded, repeatedly indicating that everything was going well. He already knew that when he beat up the people from the Leijing family, they did not come to make trouble. It was not because they knew they were in the wrong, but because Steward Mo had personally visited the Leijing family. This time, Steward Mo came uninvited. Obviously, he was here to cheer for Ziqin and also to intimidate them. With him here, there would not be any accidents. In addition to Steward Mo, many other important figures came today, including some family heads. Because it was the last day of the auction and the items being auctioned were too valuable, many family heads had to come in person to ensure that nothing would go wrong. The auction items were sold one by one, and the bidders were all holy spirits. At this stage of the auction, all the resources were already targeted at holy spirits. Everyone, the next item to be auctioned is a piece of low-grade soul-gathering crystal. As Jolina's voice fell, the holy talisman masters were all energized. A new round of bidding frenzy began. Jolina stood on the auction stage. At this time, a maid came up with a jade plate carrying a box. This was a box made of special materials, made of the Holy Thunder Demon Bone. In the Holy Thunder clan, the Holy Thunder Demon Bone was a rare item. Everyone could not wait to refine it into a weapon after obtaining it. Who would refine a box to store things? It was simply a waste of God's gift. But from another perspective, since the box was made of the Holy Thunder Demon Bone, how valuable would the item inside be? Xiaolina said. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last item of this auction. In fact, for many people, this item's value is not high, but for those who really need it, it is almost priceless. The surroundings instantly quieted down. Although many people had heard the news, they still had a strong sense of anticipation in their hearts when they heard Xiaolina's words. I won't keep you in suspense. There are actually 3 leaves inside. We usually call it Thunder Leaf. Its use is very simple. You can only take it into the core Holy Thunder territory and go to the Tree of the Thunder Ancestor to comprehend it. There was no need to explain Thunder Leaf. As Jolina's voice fell, the surroundings were filled with exclamations. In the Holy Thunder clan, the value of Thunder Leaf was immeasurable, because this item would never be sold in the world. It had never been sold. It was something that core disciples had to rely on their connections to fight for, but now 3 pieces had appeared at once. Excuse me, is it 1 piece at a time? A voice came from the noisy crowd. There are a total of 3 pieces in the box. It will only be auctioned once, 3 pieces at a time. Jolina smiled. The starting price is 10,000 Saint-grade crystals, and each increase must be no less than 1,000. There were sounds of discussion again, mixed with the sound of bids. The price was rising. Oh, 3 pieces at a time. Steward Mo was a little surprised and glanced back at Ziqin. Ziqin said, Actually, according to my previous idea, it should be auctioned 3 times, but Jolina disagreed, saying that it would be better to sell 3 pieces at a time. Steward Mo smiled. It seems that you have an amazing strategist by your side. If 1 piece was auctioned at a time, it would need to be auctioned 3 times in a row, and the final price would naturally be different. Moreover, all the clans fought on their own and guarded against each other. But selling 3 pieces at a time was different. Many of the clans competing for it could completely form an alliance in private. In this way, under the competition of many allied clans, the final price of the 3 pieces of Thunder Leaf would inevitably be a sky-high price. Under the situation where the price had increased tenfold, the bidders were still many small forces. The large forces that had come specifically for this were still motionless. The price increase continued for a while. When it reached 20 times the original price, the speed of increase slowed down a lot. Chapter 3499. This was a high price of 30 times the original price, and it shocked the people before. However, after thinking about it, Thunder Leaf was comparable to a foundation, and this price was not high at all. Apart from that, the most important thing was that the name of the Leijing family carried too much weight. Moreover, the other party's words were obviously meant to intimidate and establish their power. Ziqian's expression did not change, as if he did not hear it. On the auction stage, Jolene did not change much. This scene was already expected. The Holy Thunder clan was very big, and there were many families. The Leijing family was one of the best, but they were not the only one. And things like auctions had always been about fairness. 400,000! As soon as the other party's voice fell, a second voice came from another VIP room. 500,000! 600,000! The Leijing family's bid was instantly drowned out, and this made the other party's expression turn ugly. 700,000! He bid again. 800,000! 900,000! His voice was drowned out again. This was a battle between families, and there was no distinction between the strong and the weak, only wealth. Thunderleaf was so precious that it could not be seen at all. This time, 3 pieces had appeared. This was an extremely rare opportunity for many forces that did not have the qualifications to enter the core of the Holy Thunder territory, but had enormous wealth and resources. Therefore, the Leijing family's bids were quickly drowned out by other voices. More people were bidding without hesitation, but they all restrained themselves and did not raise the price too much. As the price continued to rise, many forces gradually withdrew. However, withdrawing did not mean that they had admitted defeat. Instead, they began to form alliances in private to form even greater wealth and influence. After many forces began to form alliances, the Leijing family, with its deep foundation, seemed to be lacking in confidence. It was not that they did not have enough resources, but it was impossible for them to put all their eggs in one basket to buy these 3 pieces of Thunderleaf. Because it was not that the Leijing family did not have such things. They had their own estimates of the value of Thunderleaf, and once the price exceeded their estimates, they would give up. Therefore, in this auction, they were the first to be eliminated. Even though the person in charge of the auction was unwilling, he could only admit defeat in the face of the alliance of so many forces. Steward Emo didn't leave, but waited until the auction was over. In the end, the 3 pieces of Thunderleaf were bought by an unknown person at a price 1,000 times higher than the starting price. Next, Zeichin accompanied Butler Missouri as they left the auction hall. After that, Butler Missouri discovered quite a few acquaintances and deliberately stayed behind to greet them. The reason was self-evident. Steward Mo's temper was extremely good. When many of the family heads of the outer factions came forward and greeted him nervously, he would politely respond with a smile. Zeichin was touched by this scene. Obviously, this was to help him stabilize the world and intimidate the world. At night, in Zeichen's room, Jolene said, "This time, the butler of the Lord's mansion is here, and it has saved us a lot of trouble. Moreover, the development of the situation was much better than I had imagined. After the auction ended, many unsatisfied forces contacted me and asked if there were any more Thunderleaf for sale." Zeichin shook his head and said, "Thunderleaf can't be sold for the time being. Otherwise, there will be trouble." Jolene nodded and said, "I know that, so I gave an ambiguous answer. I didn't say there were any, nor did I say there weren't any, but many forces immediately expressed that they wanted to develop here and stay here permanently. Tomorrow is the time to discuss the ownership of many properties." Zeichen's idea was to develop the martial heaven world into a core city of the sacred lightning race. They would be able to take out many rooms that could allow them to increase their cultivation base quickly. They would be able to sell or rent those rooms to people who came to this world. During this period, he needed to deal with many forces because the construction in this area required a huge consumption of resources and manpower. The remuneration for all of them was an astronomical figure. After all, the cultivators who came here were all for survival, and resources were a necessary condition for them to survive. Although Zeichin had never given Jolene any remuneration, he was never stingy in terms of cultivation resources. At present, everything was not going well, so Jolene just didn't have the time to cultivate, not the lack of cultivation resources. In the Tianwu world, Zeichin was just one of the providers of resources behind the scenes, and Jolene was the one walking in front. Therefore, after the auction ended, Zeichin continued to draw talismans. With the increase in the number of holy talismans, Zeichin felt that his soul had become more condensed. Coupled with the mid-grade soul amassing crystal, his soul was growing all the time. The Tianwu world was developing rapidly, and it was very good. Zichen also had a rare leisure time. He didn't have to go out to fight or take risks, so he just drew talismans every day. Another characteristic of a holy talisman master was revealed. Rich. After constant transactions, he had accumulated a lot of holy talisman papers and many contribution points. With a deeper understanding of holy talisman masters, Zichen also gradually understood the magical effects of high-quality holy talisman brushes. Therefore, he decided to use his contribution points for the first time to exchange for a higher-quality holy talisman brush. On this day, Zichen left the Tianwu world and returned to the core city. He took his contribution token and went to the Talisman Hall. I knew you were coming, so I've prepared everything for you. Fu Lao had a long square box in his hand. The box had simple patterns on it. He handed the box to Zichen and said, "This is the holy talisman brush that the hall master used back then. We have been keeping it, and this time, it's finally going to welcome its owner." Zichen's expression changed when he heard this, and he hurriedly said, "That's not very good, right?" Fu Lao smiled and said, "The hall master's realm is unfathomable, and he didn't need it long ago. Moreover, it has been gathering dust in the Talisman Hall for so many years. Today, it finally met the fated person, and it is a blessing for it. Of course, you must deduct more of your contribution points this time." In the end, Fu Lao actually made a joke. Zichen didn't refuse and put away the long box. "Work hard, I believe that you will definitely be extraordinary in the future." After old Fu gave Zichen a few more words of encouragement, Zichen took his leave. After leaving the Talisman Hall, Zichen didn't go to his residence in the core city. Instead, he planned to return directly to the Tianwu world. Just as he walked to the teleportation array entrance, Zichen heard a voice behind him. It was Grace. "What's wrong?" Seeing the other party's extremely solemn expression, Zichen was slightly surprised. "Something happened, come with me quickly." "What happened?" Zichen was still in a daze. "It's Lei Lan, something happened to her, come with me quickly." Chapter 3500. Lei Lan was the first friend Zichen had made in the Holy Thunder territory, and she was also the only disciple of the Holy Thunder Sovereign. When Zichen went out on a mission, he specifically asked Lei Lan to help look after the Tianwu world. In the end, when he returned, he found that she was already out on a mission. At that time, Zichen felt that something was wrong. Core disciples had a lot of freedom, so why did she have to go on a mission at that time? After so many years, Lei Lan had never returned. Although Zichen had doubts in his heart, he didn't care. For the long history of the Spirit Clan, it was normal for a mission to take many years. Not to mention a few decades, it was normal for it to take hundreds or thousands of years. Being dragged by Grace, several thoughts flashed through Zichen's mind, and his face gradually became gloomy. An oppressive chill emerged from Zichen's body. At such a close distance, Grace felt as if a great monster had suddenly awakened beside her. "What happened to her?" Zichen asked in a low voice, deliberately suppressing his infinite killing intent. "It's not the worst yet. You'll know when we get there." Grace led Zichen into a hall. At this time, there were already two people standing in the hall. One was a middle-aged man he had never seen before, and the other was Steward Mo. Seeing Zichen come in, Steward Mo nodded slightly at him. "What happened to Lei Lan?" Zichen asked anxiously. "Don't worry, this is Lei Yongnian, the person in charge of our Holy Thunder Core clan. He also brought back the information about Little Lan," Steward Mo said as he pointed to the middle-aged man next to him. "Sir, what's going on?" Zichen asked in a deep voice. "What happened to Lei Lan?" "When she was out on a mission, she encountered the Death Prison Star Pirates," Lei Yongnian said in a deep voice. "Death Prison Star Pirates? So they killed Lei Lan?" Zichen asked anxiously. This question stunned Lei Yongnian. He stared at Zichen with a strange expression on his face. Steward Mo said, It's Zichen's first time in the Holy Thunder Clan, so he doesn't know much about some of the forces in this world. Lei Yongnian nodded and explained. The Death Prison Pirates are a unique force. They are not loyal to any force and mainly rely on bounties to survive. It specializes in targeting core disciples with great potential, such as Lei Lan, a core disciple of the Holy Thunder Clan. Zichen said. So, they only captured Lei Lan and didn't kill her? Lei Yongnian said. From the information we received, that is indeed the case. Zichen asked. What resources do they want? Saint crystals? Lei Yongnian shook his head and said. From the news this time, they don't want any resources. Looking at the other party's hesitant expression, Zichen asked. What exactly do they want? Sir, please tell us. No matter what, we will do our best. They want Thunder Leave. And 3 Thunder Leave at that. Lei Yongnian said in a deep voice. The news clearly states that they don't want anything other than Thunder Leave. If they don't give us Thunder Leave, they can't guarantee how Lei Lan will be treated. Zichen, who was originally a little flustered, calmed down after hearing such an unreasonable request. He didn't know about the Death Prison Pirates, but since they lived on bounties and had existed for so many years, the main reason why they hadn't hurt the major forces was because of their combat strength. For example, if they asked for such resources every time they captured a core disciple, he believed that this force would have long been uprooted by the other forces. After regaining his composure, Zichen looked up at Lei Yongnian and asked, Sir, what do you think of this matter? Lei Yongnian said. In the eyes of the pirates, everyone is valuable. But this time, it doesn't seem to be in line with common sense. Obviously, the other party had also noticed the problem. Lei Lan's life was important, but it wasn't as important as 3 Thunder Leave. Zichen asked again. Who sent Lei Lan on the mission last time? The mission was sent by us, Lei Yongnian said. Was the mission so important that Lei Lan had to be sent? Zichen's words were obviously doubtful. Lei Yongnian looked at Zichen's attire and said, When we received the news, we found a vein suspected to be able to mine soul-gathering crystals. As a Saint Talisman Master, I believe you know the importance of soul-gathering crystals. Lei Lan wasn't the first core disciple we sent. We sent many people to investigate this matter. Oh, Butler Missouri knew about this matter at the time. Zichen looked at Butler Missouri, who nodded and said, There's no problem with the mission. The appearance of the Death Prison Pirates was just an accident. Was the reward of 3 Thunder Leave also an accident? Zichen asked. Butler Missouri said in a low voice. You'll have to investigate this yourself. We've secretly found out where the Death Prison Pirates are holding Lan. However, the Death Prison Pirates are too cunning. Once they find something wrong, they'll escape in advance. They might even harm Lan, so we can't send experts there. Zichen understood Butler Mo's meaning and said, Give me the location and the place of the transaction. Once he found that he couldn't rescue Lei Lan by force, Zichen would still make the transaction. Other people might not be able to take out 3 Thunder Leave, and even if they could, they might not be willing to. However, this was nothing to Zichen. After getting 2 different locations, Zichen said goodbye and left. He first bought some pills, then returned to the Tianwu world and told Zhou Lina where he was going. After learning that something had happened to Lei Lan, Zhou Lina was very worried. Zichen left quietly without alerting anyone. When he was teleporting in the outer area, he paid the teleportation fee and didn't use his core disciple token. Everything was to keep it a secret. After several teleportations, Zichen successfully left the area controlled by the Holy Thunder Clan. What followed was an extremely long journey. Lei Lan was imprisoned in a place called the Star Island region, which was one of the public contact points of the Death Prison Pirates. The location of this transaction was in the Alliance Star region next to the Star Island region. However, it was only a small alliance, and the 2 star regions were relatively remote. Zichen sat in the Saint-level flying ship. This was one of his spoils of war. It needed to be powered by Saint crystals and was very fast. For many cultivators who crossed multiple star regions, this kind of Saint-level flying ship was very important. The flying ship didn't need to be deliberately controlled. He only needed to keep a wisp of spiritual sense. Zichen was still drawing talismans. There were many unknown dangers in the future, so the more saint talismans, the better. Bang! A loud vibration suddenly sounded. The flying ship was attacked and stopped abruptly. Chapter 35:01. Zichen frowned slightly at the destruction of the holy talisman. Why did danger appear so soon? The people inside, get the hell out! A cold voice sounded from outside. Get out now, or you'll be killed! There were quite a number of people. Angry shouts sounded one after another, and attacks landed on the spaceship from time to time. Zichen walked out of the spaceship and looked ahead. There were more than a dozen people staring coldly at Zichen. Zichen only wore an ordinary black robe instead of the Holy Talisman Master robe, as he had to keep the trip a secret. Who are you? Zichen asked indifferently as he looked at the unfriendly crowd. He had scanned them with his spiritual thought, and found that the highest realm among them was only a 3-star divine spirit. There was nothing to be afraid of. Looks like it's your first time in our Desert Star Zone. You don't even know about the famous Desert Star Pirates. The 3-star divine spirit, who was the leader, sneered at Zichen. Desert Star Pirates, that's the Killing Star Pirates. This name is really inauspicious. Zichen's voice was still calm. You're courting death. A cold murderous intent flashed in the 3-star divine spirit's eyes. He raised his hand and was about to give an order. Unexpectedly, his expression changed drastically, and there was a look of horror in his eyes. A holy talisman had appeared in front of the prey he had identified. There were 4 light patterns surging out of the holy talisman. This was a 4-star holy talisman. Once it was used, it would be comparable to a 4-star divine spirit's full-force attack. Such an attack would be fatal to any of them. I still suggest that you change your name. Killing Star Pirates is really inauspicious. Zichen put away the 4-star holy talisman and walked toward the spaceship. These people looked like star pirates, and were not scheming as he had thought. Naturally, he would not argue with them. You really don't know what's good for you. Who would have thought that at this moment, a mocking smile would appear on the 3-star Holy Spirit's terrified face. Then, the others roared with laughter. You think you can scare us with just a 4-star Saint Talisman? How ignorant are you? If the space pirates of the desert were so cowardly, how could we have stood firm in the desert for so many years? Idiot brat, even if we can't kill you, there will naturally be others who will. At the same time, congratulations, your praise level has increased to the intermediate level. Amidst everyone's mocking laughter, a tyrannical aura appeared from behind. A 4-star Saint Spirit had arrived. The crowd parted to the sides as the 4-star Holy Spirit walked forward. He stared coldly at Zichen, his eyes filled with killing intent. Since you're already here, you want to leave without leaving anything behind? Leave what? Zichen turned around and looked at him, his expression as calm as ever. Of course it's fate. The 4-star Holy Spirit sneered. Zichen frowned as a cold light flashed in his eyes. The 4-star sacred talisman that had disappeared earlier reappeared. As soon as it appeared, the saint talisman shattered. A tyrannical aura spread out from the front. Lights swirled in front of Zichen, and a huge arm appeared. A terrifying aura circulated, and the crowd's mocking laughter came to an abrupt end. Everyone looked at the floating arm in shock. The 4-star Holy Spirit's expression changed drastically. He felt a strong threat from the arm that was hovering in the air. Under the floating arm, Zichen said indifferently, "This will not happen again." As soon as he finished speaking, the Saint Talisman clenched his fist and punched forward. A sharp whistling sound came from the void, and a terrifying energy swept across the area. The fist whistled forward and hit the 4-star Holy Spirit. Divine protection! The 4-star Holy Spirit shouted, and a light shield lit up in front of him. There were words shining on the light shield. Apparently, it was a special defensive technique. The fist approached and hit the light shield. The void shook violently as a powerful ripple spread out in all directions. As the fluctuation passed, those who had been there earlier were all sent flying. Their faces were pale as they coughed up blood in the void. Before the Saint Talisman Master's fist dissipated, a powerful force attacked, and many cracks appeared on the special defense formed by the 4-star Saint Talisman Master. Boom! In the next moment, the special defense was shattered, and the fist hit the 4-star Holy Spirit's chest. Accompanied by the sound of bones breaking, the 4-star Holy Spirit was severely injured. Zichen looked forward and was very satisfied with the performance of the heavenly Saint Talisman Master. He turned and entered the flying ship, turning into a beam of light and leaving. He could not waste too much time with these people. It was necessary to intimidate them at the critical moment. Zichen left in the flying ship, and the 4-star Holy Spirit returned in a sorry state. There was still fear on his face. It was just a Saint Talisman, and he had been defeated. It was unbelievable. Looking in the direction of the flying ship, the 4-star Holy Spirit said coldly, "Send the message. The target has been locked on, and is approaching the designated area." Immediately, someone took out a message token and began to send the message over a long distance. Back in the flying ship, Zichen did not draw any more talismans. He was worried that accidents would happen again. However, the rest of the journey was surprisingly smooth. It seemed that the previous intimidation had a great effect. In order to avoid trouble, Zichen did not try to get close to the planets. Instead, he moved forward in the void. Just when he felt that no one would disturb him again, a light pattern suddenly appeared in the sky. The light pattern was constantly lit up and extended into the distance. There was a powerful aura surging in this world. Zichen's expression changed, and he looked up at the sky. He saw that all the glowing runes were beginning to gather power. Then, a straight beam of light descended from the sky. Sensing this, Zichen accelerated the flying ship forward. However, at this moment, the flying ship suddenly shook, as if it was enduring an infinite force. Its speed did not increase, but decreased. The beam of light descended from the sky and landed on the flying ship. Boom! A huge shockwave spread out, accompanied by the disintegration of the flying ship. Zichen appeared from it. The huge shockwave caused his black robe to flap loudly. The disintegrated flying ship immediately fell to the ground. There was a huge light network of runes there, forming a gravity formation. Previously, the flying ship's speed did not increase, but decreased because of the gravity. Above his head, there was an attack formation that was gathering power again. Zichen's spiritual sense quickly extended, but it was blocked by an invisible force after only extending for 1,000 feet. "Come out!" Zichen's expression was cold as he swept his gaze around. No one responded. In the sky, a powerful aura surged again. It was the formation gathering energy again and launching a second attack. Chapter 3502. The beam of light fell from the sky and lightning flashed around Zichen. Zichen decided to dodge. Buzz! At this moment, the gravity formation below was activated. Zichen's body began to fall uncontrollably. As the danger approached, the light beam struck Zichen's head like a real light beam. Zichen shouted. Holy talismans appeared in front of him one after another. There were a total of 9 talismans, forming the 9 ultimate defense. The light beam fell on the defense, causing countless ripples. The 4 holy talismans surrounded by light patterns were quickly dimming. The power of the light beam was also being dissolved. Finally, the light beam disappeared completely. The 9 4-star holy talismans were on the verge of shattering. Bad start. Zichen's expression gradually turned ugly. He looked at the formation above his head, which was gathering energy again. He decided to destroy it first. At this moment, lights flew from all directions. They were sword lights. There were 9 of them, forming a strange sword formation with decisive killing intent. First, it was a powerful formation. Now, it was a sword formation. Zichen would never believe that it was not prepared. Another 4-star holy talisman appeared in front of him. It was the heavenly saint arm. The moment it appeared, it smashed toward the sword lights in front of him. There was a whistling sound. The surging light around became very dazzling. The heavenly energy saint arm suddenly exploded, and the 9 sword lights dimmed as they returned to him. A person appeared beside Zichen. All the sword lights returned to his side and spread out like a folding fan. The sword edges were sharp. His body glowed, and the light reflected the gravity array below, allowing him to move normally in this gravitational space. Moreover, he was a 5-star saint spirit. "Who are you?" Zichen stared at him. His expression gradually turned cold. "You can call me Jianhai." Jianhai smiled faintly and said, "I'm good at using sword formations." Zichen said, "Are you also a space pirate?" "Sort of." Jianhai looked at Zichen and said, "Do you have any last words before you die?" Zichen said, "Are you so sure that you can kill me?" "You will definitely die today." The sea of swords pointed forward, and the 9 swords from before moved forward again. "Let's see how many more talismans you have." Another heavenly energy saint arm flew out from Zichen's side. Using a 4-star saint talisman to fight against a sword formation, no matter how one looked at it, seemed like a waste. After all, each saint talisman was extremely valuable. Using such a method to fight was indeed a little too extravagant. Another explosion sounded out as the heavenly energy saint arm once again forced the 9 swords back. At this moment, Zichen suddenly felt a dangerous aura coming from behind him. The moment he turned around, he saw a fist getting closer and closer to him. Zichen clenched his fist and punched back. Lightning swirled around his fist. With a loud bang, Zichen's figure flew back in the air, while his opponent was sent flying. The second 5-star Holy Spirit appeared. It was a muscular man with a bare upper body. "You can call me Li Hai. I'm good at using my physical strength." Both of them had 5-star Holy Spirits. There were 2 formations, one above and one below. "To deal with a 4-star Holy Spirit like me, you guys have put in so much effort." Zichen looked up at the sky. The formation there was about to complete its 3rd charge. Swoosh! Swoosh! Li Hai and the Sea of Swords launched another attack. Zichen already had a record of killing a 6-star Holy Spirit. No matter how extraordinary the 2 of them were, Zichen was not afraid. Unfortunately, the influence of the gravity formation below was too great. This was why Zichen was constantly suppressed during the battle and was unable to make ends meet. Bang! Zichen sent Li Hai flying with a punch. At the same time, he used his lightning speed to resist the pressure and approached his opponent. In an instant, his speed exploded, and he was getting closer to Li Hai. 9 rays of sword light came from behind, and another heavenly energy saint arm flew out from Zichen's side. In the blink of an eye, he was close to Li Hai. Zichen clenched his fist and punched out again. This punch was the Thunder Blast. Once it hit Li Hai, even if it did not kill him, it would definitely make him lose his ability to fight. Seeing the fist coming toward him, a hint of mockery flashed in Li Hai's eyes. The wind howled, and countless sand and stones flew, covering the sky instantly. Li Hai disappeared into the sand and stones. At the same time, more sand and stones flew towards Zichen to wrap around him. In the blink of an eye, a sphere formed by sand and stones appeared, and Zichen was trapped in it. Boom! In the next moment, the sand and stones exploded, and Zichen appeared. He saw the 3rd person in the field. Without waiting for the other party to speak, Zichen said coldly, "You should be Shahai, right?" "That's right. I am Shahai, the ruler of this star zone." Shahai said coldly, "You should be very happy to die in the hands of us 3 brothers." He pointed to the sky and said, "Are you satisfied with this holy light formation?" At this time, the holy light formation had finished charging for the 3rd time. It launched a powerful attack again, and at the same time, with the gravity formation below, it was determined to destroy Zichen. Outside the battlefield, 2 people were standing, watching the battle and the formation coldly. One of the middle-aged men saw this scene, smiled faintly, and said, I didn't expect you to have made so many preparations. The other person, who was shrouded in a black robe, said indifferently. He's dead for sure. Looking at the current situation, he's definitely going to die. It's good that you've taken your revenge, the middle-aged man said. I'll be responsible for bringing his corpse back later, the black-robed man said. Everything he has is mine. This is what you promised, the middle-aged man said. We only want the one thing he has. You can take all the other resources. Don't worry, although that thing is precious, it's useless to you, the black-robed man said. You're talking about Thunderleaf, right? You know? The middle-aged man looked at him in surprise. The black-robed man's eyes flashed with resentment. I've been waiting for him to die all the time. Of course, I know what he has. I can't return to the Thunder Clan. Thunderleaf is useless to me, but I need a reward worthy of Thunderleaf. All right. The middle-aged man nodded without hesitation. The light beam fell from the sky, making Zichen waste 9 sacred defense talismans again. If he hadn't been prepared and careful, Zichen would have been in real danger this time. The three of them stared at Zichen, their eyes cold. Jianhai took a step forward, 9 sword lights revolving around his body. You're doomed. Any last words? Doomed? With just the 3 of you? Zichen's expression was extremely cold. The formation above his head began to gather power again. Yellow sand flew around the sea of sand. He smiled coldly and said, This is no longer confidence, but arrogance. I wanted to give you a chance to leave your last words. Since you don't cherish it, then forget it. I'll send you on your way. The 3 of them immediately charged at Zichen. At this moment, Zichen looked up at the sky. A bolt of lightning appeared. Chapter 3503. The commotion in the sky was so great that the 3 of them had to stop attacking and look up. Then, they saw the spirit formation crumble. How is this possible? The trio's faces were filled with shock. Why would a perfectly fine array be destroyed? Looks like you 3 are the arrogant ones. Now I'll give you a chance to leave your last words. Zichen's voice was equally cold. Don't be so arrogant. Even without the array, you'll still die today. Li Hai's eyes flashed with killing intent as he charged at Zichen. Is that so? Then let's wait and see. Zichen's hand flashed, and a sheathed saber appeared. It was the demonic saber that he had fused with. He had not used it for a long time. Now that he had the demonic saber in hand, he unsheathed it. A thunderous saber light shot toward the gravity array below. As the saber light approached, ripples appeared on the surface of the array, forming a protective barrier. Whoosh! The saber light fell forcefully, instantly destroying the barrier and falling into the gravity array. Boom! There was an explosion of energy, and the array collapsed. Without the 2 matrices, Zichen's biggest threat was gone. He stared at the 3 of them, and a cold smile appeared on his lips. Now let us see who will live and who will die. Holy thunder flash! He moved at the maximum speed, like a bolt of lightning that could change positions at will, and swept toward the sea of swords. Watch out! Shahai warned loudly. Countless flying sand serpents formed and shot towards Zichen to intercept him. Whoosh! 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 The saber light flashed, and the flying sand pythons were destroyed one after another. He was getting closer and closer to the sea of swords. Go to hell! Around Jianhai, 9 rays of sword light spun rapidly. Vaguely, they seemed to form 100 rays of sword light, forming a sword aura. Zichen approached quickly and unsheathed his saber again. The terrifying power of the holy thunder gathered in the demonic saber. The world suddenly lit up, and the saber light came. The sword force that blocked Zichen was destroyed. The saber light approached and landed on Shahai's body. Sacred blood splattered in the air, and the sea of swords could no longer be seen in front of Zichen. At the crucial moment, he was saved by Li Hai, but there was also an extremely deep blade wound in front of him, which looked extremely terrifying. Li Hai turned his head and stared at Zichen. He gritted his teeth and said, "You are courting death." Zichen's expression was indifferent. He turned around and drew his saber. The saber light tore through the sky and cut open a huge sand beast. Countless yellow sand scattered as Sha Hai's body continuously retreated. His face was a little pale, and his eyes were full of shock. Obviously, he didn't expect Zichen to be so strong. Zichen looked at the sea of sand, his expression unperturbed. "Ever since I became a sacred symbol master, I've never truly fought with my full strength. Now that I've connected various techniques, I feel a lot rusty. You still have one chance to use your full strength, just one chance." As Sha Hai listened to Zichen's calm words, he didn't know why, but he felt an intense unease in his heart. He didn't know much about Zichen. He only knew that the other party was a core disciple of the Holy Thunder Clan, but his realm was only 4 stars. How could he be so strong? However, as the master of an area, he naturally wouldn't run away from a battle. At this time, he took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Very good, I just happened to master a move." Zichen suddenly shook his head and said, "Why do you have to do this?" Sha Hai felt a strong sense of vigilance in his heart, but he didn't know what was going on. Puff! The sound of a weapon piercing through a body came from behind Zichen, and a flash of lightning came to Zichen's side. It was the flying saber. It was the one who broke the formation in the air earlier. Li Hai, who was almost behind Zichen, appeared. At this moment, his eyes were wide open and his hair stood on end. Zichen did not even turn his head as he said, "Originally, he could have died in a dignified manner. The previously injured Sea of Swords was now dead." "Ah, I want you dead!" Li Hai rushed toward Zichen like a madman. The fist intent was vast and mighty, and Li Hai's expression was ferocious and terrifying. Behind him, Sha Hai's hands began to form seals. More sand appeared beside him, and a terrifying aura began to ripple. His heart was heavy, and he had vaguely guessed that this might be his last battle. When Li Hai and Zichen came into contact, there was no terrifying surge of energy, nor was there an earth-shattering explosion. Lightning flashed, and Zichen moved from in front of Li Hai to behind him. The two stood with their backs facing each other, motionless. Feeling the aura of Li Hai's death, Sha Hai closed his eyes and formed the last seal in his hand. Annihilation Sandstorm! Countless sand flew, like a wave in a raging sea, and swept towards Zichen, covering the sky and the earth. Between heaven and earth, a loud sound spread, like a clap of thunder. Countless sandstorms with terrifying power fell on Zichen, drowning Zichen in an instant. The sandstorm was still surging, and the corpses of Li Hai and Jian Hai were completely swallowed by the sandstorm. In the blink of an eye, there was a floating continent made of flying sand around them. Light flashed, and Sha Hai's figure appeared. His face was very pale, as the previous move had consumed too much of his strength. Is he dead? Looking at the motionless ground, this thought appeared in his mind. Just as this thought appeared in his mind, a ray of light shot out from the ground. It was a ray of saber light, and when it separated the flying sand, it arrived in front of Sha Hai at an extremely fast speed. Whoosh! The saber light swept past Sha Hai's body. Sha Hai's expression froze, and he looked forward. He saw Zichen's figure appear from the ground. His robe was a little tattered, and he looked a little bit embarrassed. "Your move is not bad, but your realm is too low," Zichen, who walked out of countless sand and stones, said. As a 4-star, he despised the 5-star opponent for having a low realm. It sounded ridiculous. However, Sha Hai did not laugh. His vitality was fading, and the flying sand under his feet turned into countless light spots, dissipating into the sky. Zichen glanced at Sha Hai, and then looked into the distance. "I was going to ask you who arranged all of this, but it seems that there is no need for that now." A long howl came from the distance. An aura belonging to a 6-star saint spirit was quickly approaching Zichen. Sha Hai's body fell backward, and he fell into the void. 3 rays of lightning flew out from Zichen's body, and swept over the bodies of the three people. After they died, their bodies were completely crystallized, and they were pure saint crystals, which he put away. Next, he just had to wait for the opponent to arrive. It was a man in a black robe, and the aura flowing around him made Zichen feel that he had seen him before, but there was also a strong sense of strangeness. He even felt a little evil. This made Zichen very puzzled. It seemed that there was no problem with his spiritual sense perception, so naturally, he would be familiar with it. The black-robed man approached, and his eyes were fixed on Zichen. "Zichen, you didn't expect this, did you?" Zichen's expression changed slightly, and for the first time, his eyes showed disbelief. Chapter 3504. "Gone high!" Zichen exclaimed. Although this ugly face was very different from the original Gone High, the expression in his eyes and his voice had not changed. In addition, there was also a familiar soul aura. "Aren't you dead? Why are you still alive?" Zichen was shocked. Gone High was punished by the Holy Thunder Clan, or rather, pushed out by other forces as a scapegoat. Under such circumstances, with the supervision of the Holy Thunder Clan, there was no way for him to survive. Zichen's current Tianwu sacred region was Gone High's force back then. "Are you surprised? Or are you disappointed?" Gone High stared at Zichen, his eyes full of resentment. Zichen said, "I'm indeed surprised, but as for disappointment, it doesn't exist." "How are you going to die?" Gone High said coldly. "Other than a quick death, you can choose any way to be tortured to death." Zichen said, "It seems that you've put all your anger on me. Speaking of which, you were the one who provoked me back then, and the one who pushed you out in the end was also the force you always believed in, or rather, your backer, right? Cut the crap. In order to kill you, I didn't hesitate to train myself into this appearance." Gone High pointed at his ugly face that could never be repaired and said resentfully, "After waiting for so many years, this opportunity has finally come." Feeling the strong killing intent from the other parties, Zichen said, "In that case, let's fight to the death." Gone High's body was surrounded by lightning, but it was tinged with black. The moment his aura circulated, Zichen suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of danger. "Go to hell!" Gone High rushed forward and punched at Zichen. Zichen, who had put away his demonic blade, also punched back. In terms of physical strength, he was not afraid of anyone at all. Boom! With a loud bang, powerful fluctuations spread out in all directions. Zichen and Gone High both retreated. This attack was evenly matched. Swish! Swish! After a collision, the two moved forward again, and their fists whistled through the air. Another rumbling sound rang out. Fist after fist collided, causing countless ripples to spread out in all directions. As the battle continued, Zichen's mood gradually became heavy. Compared to before, Gone High's realm had not broken through, but his combat strength had become much stronger. He, who could easily suppress a 6-star saint spirit, was actually evenly matched with Gone High. Although this was just a test and Zichen hadn't used any powerful battle skills, Gone High hadn't either. Zichen used his extreme speed to close in on Gone High. Then, he sent a punch straight at Gone High's forehead. Chi! The fist light vibrated, and Gone High's body collapsed, leaving behind only an afterimage. Immediately after, Zichen felt a sense of danger from his side. He immediately dodged, but it was Gone High's attack. Under such circumstances, the extreme speed of Holy Lightning Flash also lost its suppressive effect. Boom! The final collision between the two was accompanied by a powerful shockwave. Zichen and Gone High were immediately sent flying backwards. As they flew backward, a holy talisman appeared in Zichen's hand. It was the Heavenly Saint Arm. After probing for so long, it was time for the real life and death battle. The holy talisman shattered, and a huge Heavenly Saint Arm appeared in the void. It clenched its fist and charged at Gone High. The void shook. This attack was extremely powerful. Black lightning! Seeing the Heavenly Saint Arm, Gone High snorted coldly. The power of black lightning gathered crazily in his right fist. A dazzling black lightning ball appeared on Gonhai's fist, and he punched out. Boom! The void shook again, and the heavenly saint arm collapsed. The black lightning ball's power didn't diminish, and it went straight for Zichen. Seeing this, Zichen's eyes narrowed, and he unsheathed his demonic saber. A bright light illuminated the void. The saber light and the black lightning ball exploded at the same time, forming a powerful fluctuation that spread in all directions. The moment the lightning ball was destroyed, Zichen suddenly accelerated. At the same time, the power and abdomen madly gathered into the demonic saber. In the next moment, he unsheathed his saber. The dazzling saber light appeared again. This attack was equivalent to Zichen's full power. The saber light fell on Gonhai's head. Gonhai smiled disdainfully. The black lightning gathered again, and he punched out. In the powerful explosion, the saber light shattered. I originally wanted to slowly torture you to death, but now it seems that you want to die so badly. Well, I'll fulfill your wish. Gonhai smiled savagely. Now I'll let you see a battle skill that was created specifically to kill the spirit tribe. Gonhai's aura suddenly changed. The dangerous feeling that Zichen originally felt became even more intense. And this wasn't the first time he felt this. It's the spirit extermination skill! His expression changed. He didn't expect Gonhai to have mastered such a powerful skill. In order to kill you, do you know how much I suffered? Gonhai, whose aura had become incomparably terrifying, pointed at his ugly face and said, The reason for this is not to cover my tracks, but because of the backlash of the skill. Gonhai clenched his fist. Black lightning gathered on his fist. It was very terrifying. But in the next moment, the black lightning began to burn. Zichen's pupils suddenly shrank. The burning flames instantly increased his strong sense of danger. This is the Black Flame Thunder, a spirit extermination skill that was created specifically to kill you. Now go to hell! Gonhai rushed towards Zichen. The burning black lightning on his fist became more and more terrifying. Looking at the charging opponent, Zichen gritted his teeth. 3 saint talismans appeared in front of him. They were the heavenly saint arms. The 3 saint talismans instantly shattered. 3 heavenly saint arms appeared, whistling as they rushed towards Gonhai. A mocking look flashed in Gonhai's eyes. You overestimate yourself! The burning black lightning whistled forward. The moment it met the heavenly saint arms, it was directly destroyed. 1, 2, 3. The 3 heavenly saint arms were destroyed one after another. However, the black lightning did not seem to be damaged at all. In an instant, the black lightning neared and hit Zichen's chest. Boom! The spirit extermination skill's power exploded. It was as if countless terrifying forces wanted to enter Zichen's body and destroy his life force. The spirit extermination skill was a skill that was born to counter the spirit race. Zichen's body flew backwards, coughing up blood in midair. At the critical moment, he used his arms to block the black lightning. If he had allowed the opponent to hit his chest, he would have been seriously injured even if he did not die. Looking at Zichen, who had landed on the ground, a look of surprise flashed in Gonhai's eyes. You're just a 4-star. How could you block my spirit extermination skill? Zichen stabilized his body and said coldly, I've seen spirit extermination skills before. However, it's the first time I've seen one as weak as you. Hearing Zichen's mocking, Gonhai's face did not show any anger. Instead, there was a hint of mockery. Is that so? Then why don't you take a look at this? Chapter 3505. If the black lightning that threatened Zichen was just a ball of fire, then this mountain-like black lightning was made up of countless flames. A strong sense of danger appeared in his heart. This made Zichen realize that this was Gonhai's real killing move. This is called Black Flame Peak. How do you feel? Gonhai smiled coldly, looking down at Zichen, his expression full of disdain. Zichen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He knew that he couldn't hold back anymore, or he might really die here today. Ganhai charged forward again. The unique pressure of the spirit extinguishing skill came at him, and Zichen felt a strong sense of suffocation. He took a deep breath, and his expression became serious. At the same time, he clenched his right fist, and the power of the sacred thunder gathered in his right arm. His entire arm started to glow, and the bones were faintly visible, releasing an incomparably bright light. This was the sacred bone, equivalent to the sacred thunder demon bone. After fully activating it, Zichen felt the pressure in his heart lessen a lot. The feeling of invincibility that he had felt earlier had also weakened. Sacred thunder explosion! He punched out, and a powerful oppressive aura surged forward. Zichen's fist hit black flame peak, and the two terrifying energies clashed. Boom! In the end, the fist light exploded, and countless lightning bolts shot forward, extinguishing the black flames at the same time. After that attack, Zichen's breathing quickened, and his face turned pale. Using the sacred thunder bone at full power consumed a lot of energy. Ganhai looked at Zichen in disbelief. You actually blocked the spirit extinguishing skill? How is that possible? Zichen said coldly. It seems that you haven't mastered the spirit extinguishing skill yet. Zichen walked toward Ganhai, and his right arm glowed. The sacred bone released a terrifying aura and pressure. Damn it, what's going on? Is there a spirit race member in the world that the spirit extinguishing skill can't kill? Ganhai couldn't accept this fact and exclaimed loudly. Zichen clenched his fist and used the sacred thunder flash to approach his opponent, and punched out again. It was the sacred thunder explosion again. This was his strongest attack. I don't believe it! Ganhai let out a furious roar. The black lightning in front of him surged again, transforming into a mountain of black flames that blocked Zichen's punch. Boom! This time, the black flame mountain peak collapsed even more thoroughly. Ganhai flew backwards and coughed up blood. His face was filled with shock. He still couldn't believe what he was seeing. Impossible! How could you block the spirit extermination technique? That is an Armageddon technique that exists specifically to exterminate the spirit race. How can a mere 4-star like you block it? Ganhai, who was in disbelief, suddenly had a crazed expression. His eyes were once again filled with resentment. It seems that Milord had already predicted all of this, which is why he gave me the complete form of the Black Flame skill. Zichen, I told you that I will kill you! Ganhai's eyes were filled with hatred as he began to form seals. The aura around him became increasingly terrifying. Even if I die, I will kill you! Even more black flames surged out of his body. This time, the black flames were even more terrifying. There was even a soul fluctuation within them. And in Zichen's perception, Ganhai's aura was rapidly weakening. Even his soul had become extremely weak. He was like a candle flickering in the wind, about to be extinguished at any moment. The black flames converged in front of him, transforming into a huge square seal that emitted a terrifying aura. It was inversely proportional to Ganhai's weakened state. This is the Black Flame Seal, the ultimate form of the spirit extermination technique. Zichen, you should be proud to be able to die under the Black Flame Seal. The Black Flame Seal began to tremble, creating ripples that caused the void to distort. An unprecedented sense of crisis filled Xin Lai's heart. This time, even the circulation of the Saint Bone was shaky. Zichen took out a Saint Talisman without hesitation. It was still the heavenly power Saint Arm. Ganhai mocked disdainfully. You took out a few of them before, but they were all useless. What's the use of this one now? It's very useful, Zichen said in a low voice. He slapped the Saint Talisman on his shoulder. The runes on the Saint Talisman lit up and then disappeared. A strange force entered Zichen's right arm and quickly merged with the Saint Bone. In an instant, an unimaginably terrifying aura surged out from Zichen's right arm. This aura was no weaker than the Black Flame Seal. It's time to end this. Zichen punched out, and golden ripples spread out. The void trembled as if it was about to be shattered by this punch. The fist moved forward and hit the Black Flame Seal. The void shook again, and a deafening explosion sounded. The two different types of energy mixed together, and when it spread out, it formed an indiscriminate attack. Zichen and Ganhai were the first to bear the brunt of the attack. They were swept away by the energy, and their bodies flew backward. The terrifying ripples lasted for a long time. Zichen stood in the distance, not daring to get close. At this moment, other than being shocked by the uniqueness of the heavenly power Saint Arm, his body was extremely weak. The energy required to activate his Saint Bone was too great. When the energy dissipated, Zichen saw Ganhai standing there with a blank look in his eyes. Zichen walked forward in the still distorted void. He walked toward Ganhai with a cold expression. When Ganhai saw Zichen, the blank look in his eyes was replaced by hatred. Zichen, I will not let you go. This time, you will definitely die. As his voice fell, Ganhai's body began to disintegrate, turning into specks of light that disappeared from this world. Just as Zichen was watching this scene in shock, he saw a black light fly out from Ganhai's disintegrated body. When the black light appeared, it disappeared into the void like a bolt of lightning. Zichen's expression changed slightly. That black light was not a living thing. It was more like a ball of energy. It was very pure, and there was no Ganhai's aura in it. So why was it in Ganhai's body? This time, Ganhai's soul was truly destroyed. He had completely disappeared from this world. Zichen did not immediately continue on his way. Instead, he recovered his energy in case there was another big battle. After fully recovering, Zichen walked forward. Unlike before, when he deliberately avoided planets, this time, Zichen purposely headed for that particular star field. Although he had killed everyone in the encirclement this time, he couldn't just let this matter rest. Zichen arrived at the Desert Sea Star sector and went straight to the core area. This place was still lively, and there was no chaos. Obviously, no one knew that the master of this saint realm, Shahai, was dead. Zichen released his huge soul and quickly locked onto his target. After a moment, his body began to descend, and he arrived at the Desert Sea Star sector's treasure vault. As his body descended, the guards were all knocked away by the energy. Zichen walked forward, forcibly breaking the treasure vault's restrictions, and entered. Colorful lights reflected in Zichen's eyes. The number of resources stored here surprised Zichen. Next, Zichen began to clean up the resources. Everything that could be placed here was naturally valuable. Zichen did not mind that the quality was low and collected them all. Among them, there were many battle skills and cultivation methods. Just as he was collecting these skills, Zichen suddenly saw a black jade token. Chapter 3506. Zichen's gaze fell on the black jade token. At this moment, he actually had some expectations in his heart. Could it be that this black jade token records the spirit extermination technique? Zichen had long seen the power of the spirit extermination technique. After putting away the black jade token and taking away all the other things in the treasury, Zichen left the treasury. Outside the treasure vault, many experts from the Sansi Saint realm were staring at the treasure vault with weapons in their hands, their expressions wary. After Zichen came out, there was a commotion in the crowd. Zichen glanced at the crowd and waved his hand. A hurricane appeared and blew everyone away. When the wind dissipated, everyone found that the evil man had disappeared. In a brand new flying ship, Zichen held the black jade token in his hand and studied it carefully. This jade token gave him the feeling that it was the spirit extermination technique used by Ganhai. But why was it in the treasury of the Desert Saint region? Could it be that the Desert Saint region had always been under Ganhai's control? After hesitating for a while, Zichen probed with his spiritual sense. A cultivation technique indeed appeared in the black jade token. Black flames. It was the spirit extermination technique used by Ganhai. This instantly piqued Zichen's interest. He had already personally experienced the power of the spirit extermination technique. After carefully sensing it, the smile on Zichen's face slowly froze. This was indeed the spirit extermination technique, but the price to pay was too great. First, he had to convert all the lightning power in his body into the attribute of the black flames. During this period, he had to constantly be on guard against the invasion of the black flames. Gonhai's ugly face, which was almost disfigured and could never recover, was a precedent. Zichen decided to give up. This was because he was still reluctant to convert his lightning power. That was his fusion power. Moreover, he was able to defeat Gonhai as a 4-star, which was enough to prove that his strength was extraordinary. Just as Zichen was about to give up, he suddenly discovered that there was another way to use the black flames. He did not need to convert it completely. Just like a real combat technique, he could convert it during battle. However, this method had very high requirements for the user. For example, the strength of the physical body needed to withstand the power of the black flames in an instant. Seeing this scene, Zichen's eyes lit up. This was the perfect opportunity for him. He was very confident in his physical body, so he could give it a try. As the flying boat moved forward on its own, Zichen began to attempt to comprehend the spirit extermination technique. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Zichen sat there motionless. In his sea of consciousness, the transformation process of the black flame was repeated over and over again. 10 days later, Zichen opened his eyes and looked down at his left hand. The power of lightning began to gather on his left hand, forming a ball of lightning that emitted a bright light. "Convert!" Zichen said in a low voice. The lightning ball began to burn from the inside. The flames became more and more intense, and the color changed from the original gold to black. During this period of time, a blazing sensation spread throughout his body. It was as if there was fire poison invading his body, rampaging about wildly. Even with Zichen's strong physical body, he was starting to feel uncomfortable. His left hand, in particular, was enduring an even more terrifying amount of black flames. It was almost reaching its limit. A ball of black flame was burning on Zichen's left hand. If Gonhai were to see this scene, he would probably be angered back to life. That was because he had spent many years to successfully cultivate the black flames. Moreover, it had caused him to become neither human nor ghost. Zichen, on the other hand, had only comprehended it for 10 days and then succeeded. The ball of black flame thunder fire, while burning, also released an extremely terrifying aura. This was the spirit extermination technique, black flame thunder. But Zichen also knew that this was his limit. If he wanted to reach the black flame peak that Gonhai mentioned, other than increasing the strength of his physical body, he could only completely convert the power of lightning in his body. Obviously, Zichen would not do that. The black flame on his left hand disappeared, and Zichen looked at his right hand. The light came back on. Right now, his right arm was completely composed of Saint bones, which was much stronger than his left arm. Zichen wanted to give it a try. Power continued to gather in his right hand, and then turned into black flames. Sure enough, the endurance of his right arm was much stronger than his left. Other than the discomfort in his body, there was nothing wrong with his entire right arm. The spirit extermination technique was a success. Just as Zichen was moving forward, the middle-aged man who had been in contact with Gonhai was also moving in another direction. The speed of his flying ship was much faster than Zichen's. Obviously, it was of higher quality. "I didn't expect Gonhai to fail. What a piece of trash. In this case, I have to lose some benefits." The flying ship that the middle-aged man was riding moved forward rapidly and came to a star field. He very familiarly landed on a planet and then went to a building. Entering the room, an old man was sitting there. When the old man saw the middle-aged man walk in, he said faintly, "He failed?" The middle-aged man nodded, looking somewhat depressed. The price to pay to ask them to do something was not small, because they were famous for only recognizing money. "Is it done?" the old man asked again. The middle-aged man nodded again. He said, "It has been placed in the treasury. As long as he goes in, he will definitely find it." "In that case, the price remains the same," the old man said. "I will send Le Yuenda." The middle-aged man was delighted. He cupped his fist at the old man and thanked him from the bottom of his heart. Although Lei Yuanda was a 6-star holy spirit like Gan Hai, his combat power was much stronger than Gan Hai's. The reason why he was so happy was that Lei Yuanda was a member of the Thunder Clan and almost passed the Core Disciple assessment. If it wasn't for the accident, he would have become a Core Disciple. It was also because of that incident that Lei Yuanda left the Thunder Clan. In the following time, his reputation became extremely well known. Although he had not fought with a Core Disciple of the Thunder Clan, he had a glorious record of defeating the Core Disciples of other clans. This is Zichen's current location. After leaving this message, the middle-aged man bid farewell and left. The old man tapped on the table lightly. No one knew what he was thinking. A black-robed young man walked out from behind and said indifferently, "It's just killing a 4-star. Is there a need to do this? Gan Hai is already dead. Isn't this enough to prove the problem?" The old man said faintly. Gan Hai's spirit extermination technique was barely entry-level. He didn't have any talent. His death is not worth regretting. The black-robed young man said indifferently. He doesn't deserve to be killed by me. He is a core disciple of the Holy Thunder Clan. It is said that he directly advanced without passing the assessment. The old man said. The Holy Thunder Clan thinks highly of him. Moreover, his performance was very strong, which made many people unhappy. The surrounding temperature plummeted, and a cold chill surged in the air. The old man's expression was indifferent because he knew what Lei Yuanda cared about. Go, but be careful. After all, he is a core disciple of the Holy Thunder Clan and killed Gan Hai. Don't be careless. The old man placed the clue left by the middle-aged man on the table. With a flash of brilliance, Lei Yuanda and the clue disappeared at the same time. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.